allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Be seated. Welcome all to the Township of Old Bridge Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, June 2nd, 2022. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by properly posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, and location on the agenda. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, and finally by filing a copy of such the announcement with the municipal clerk, as well as posting the agenda and related documents on the township website. It's nice to be back in here. This is only the second time since March of 20. I see some of the former professionals that we used to see, and it's great to see the faces again. Everybody looks younger to me. I think I look in the mirror, and I'm the only one that looks 2 years older. We have Mr. Chris Dasty representing the board as our attorney. This is the first time I've met Chris in person because we all did the Brady Bunch Zoom meeting, like we were all in the same family, but not in the same room. So we welcome Mr. Dasty here to the room. To all the board members that weren't here in the first meeting, welcome back. And tonight we have Ms. Sawant, who is the normal planner, is out, and we have subbing for her, Katie Sarmad, and I hope I say that right. Katie was a former planner here in town, and she was here for a few years and decided to go elsewhere. They say the chickens come home to roost, and all of a sudden you're back where you started from again. So thank you for sitting in tonight for Ms. Sawant. I'm sure you'll be a great help. What I did say to Katie, if those of you who here obviously have interest and probably live in the township, there's a project right across the street, and it was a project on farmland, I guess we would call it, Katie? Green Acres, thank you. And she was the designer of that along with Ms. Shapiro. And I said it must be great now to see it come to fruition, so it's in the bill. So thank you for all you did, and thank you for being here tonight for us, all right? Ms. C, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Sullivan.
Here.
Mr. Connor is absent. Mr. Stoner.
Here.
Ms. Chevalier.
Here.
Mr. Scogno.
Here.
I know Ms. Andrews is absent. Ms. Testaverde.
Here.
Mr. Sykowski. And I know Mr. Kunswich is absent. Mr. Dasty.
Here.
Mr. Gill.
Here.
Mr. Maude. Ms. Shapiro.
Here.
Mr. Hart. Mr. Miller. Mr. Lavallo. And myself, Ms. C. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Attorneys, please take note. There are only 5 board members on the dais tonight. Next order of business is the minutes. They were the minutes from May 19, 2022. Hopefully the board members have had a chance to review them. Absent any commentary or suggestions for additions or deletions, I'd ask someone to move them for adoption.
Move it for adoption, Scogno.
Is there a second?
Second Stoner.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stoner.
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier.
Yes.
Mr. Scogno.
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde.
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. The item 4 on the agenda tonight is listed as discussion as 2021 annual report. We did put it off from the last meeting. Unfortunately, Ms. Sawant is not here tonight, and in fairness to her, we're going to move that until the next scheduled meeting. So we'll move right to completeness waivers, and hopefully I can pull up the first one here. It's easier doing this at home when you're not on the spot and people are looking right at you when I'm trying to figure out how to work this computer. Should come right up. Thank you for your patience. This is matter 28-22Z, Interbell Automotive Corp. This is in the EDO 1 zone, block 2001, lot 25 and 26. Location is 1706 Englishtown Road. It's for used car dealership license. C and D variance. Peter Clauser is representing the applicant. I have in front of me, and board members, you've received a memo from Ms. Sawant in reference to this request for waiver. It's dated June 1. Reference subject is this, as I read in Interbel Automotive Corp. Ms. Sawant writes, the subject property, also known as Block 2001, Lot 25 and 26, is located at 1706 Englishtown Road in the ED01 zone. This property contains a car dismantling facility. The applicant is seeking D variance relief and a waiver of site plan to permit the location of a used car dealership license at the property. Our office has reviewed the waiver request by the applicant for the following: Item 3A, Environmental Impact Statement. Item 3B, Community Impact Statement. Item 3C, Traffic Impact. Item 3D, Aquifer Recharge Assessment. Item 3E, Stormwater Report. Item 8, a key map of a scale at 1 inch to 800 feet, showing the relation of the project to its surrounding neighborhoods for 1,000-foot minimum. Item 12, Schedule of Required and Provided Zoning Bulk Requirements. Item 16, all track data, hearings, distances, radii, curve data, areas and square foot of lots. Item 23, symbols for existing and proposed items, hydrants, monuments, utilities, plantings, signs, walkways, elevations, etc. Item 30C, location and width of all streets and railroads. Item 30D, existing buildings, watercourses, bridges, wooded lines. Item 40C, location of existing wooded areas, and the general size and type of the predominant trees. In 2017, the applicant was granted a use variance and subsequently a major, preliminary, and final site plan approval to operate a car dismantling facility. The construction is complete and the site is operational. No amendments are proposed to the prior approvals. The applicant is now proposing the location of a used car dealership license to allow the applicant to open accounts with different kinds of automobile sellers. The applicant does not propose the sale of any automobiles from the property. The sole purpose of the license, correction, would be to allow accounts to be opened for the purchase of vehicles to be utilized in the car dismantling business. In addition to a use variance for the license, the applicant is requesting waiver of site plan to allow the construction of a partial awning to the rear of the building. No other site improvements are proposed. Our office recommends that all items listed above be waived except for item 3B, the community impact statement, and 3C, traffic impact. This application is for use variance. Community impact statement and traffic impact statement are essential for the evaluation of the proposed use and therefore shall be submitted to the planning department. The applicant should be advised that the waiving of any completeness items does not constitute approval of any portion of the application, and that any information found to be necessary during the review process must be supplied. Mr. Clauser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's green.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Oh, hey, there we are. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be back. This is my first appearance here since 2020. I've been in front of the board a number of times on Zoom after 15 years appearing in front of the board, and I was away for 2 years. And now we're back again, so I like this better.
We do too.
Yeah, I like to be back here. So thank you. So in that prior appearances before the board, I represented Dimitri and his company with regard to the facility there in 2017. We got approval from this board for a use variance to have the facility there, and then ultimately the site plan approvals. So this board vetted the approvals over a number of public hearings and approved the use and the site and the site plan at the site, and it is now constructed, and he's up and running his business. The purchase of these automobiles is from third party. You're going to hear more of this at the time of the public hearing, but just my little synopsis is from third-party sellers, auctions, things like that. In order to be able to register your account with these auctions and sellers, you have to have a used car license. Dimitri was doing this through third parties, as I understand it, other people's licenses. That's no longer available or possible. So the purpose is to have a license in his own name located at the property so that he can open these accounts, not in any way to sell used cars at the site, that we're not asking for a dealership here. That's not what the purpose of this is. Damien, in reviewing the application, said I can't approve that because it's a use that's out of sight. I need use variance from this board if I'm going to even consider approving that. So that's why we made the application to the board. That's why I've asked for so many waivers, because there is no modification to the site or the use that was previously approved by this board. There is, the board approved, there's a raised deck in the back of the facility, and the board approved outdoor, there's outdoor equipment that's out there, which is mainly to store the batteries and the liquids that are taken out of the cars before they are dismantled, and it's just being bombarded by rain. So as part of this, we included a request to waive the site plan so that we can have an awning over it. But that is not, so when I say there's no modifications to the site, I want to be completely transparent that we are asking for this awning, but it's just to protect equipment that's located in accordance with approvals previously granted by the board. I never disagree with Vina. We have use variance, and I believe the board should have as much information as possible. This is the bare minimum of all use variances that I've ever submitted. This is we're proposing no modifications to the use. I do agree that we will secure a community impact statement, because this board has the right to a professional planner to testify in support of the use variance relief, and that planner will prepare a community impact statement. So I'm not asking for that waiver. I would agree with her. But because there are no modifications to the site or the use, or I'm not requesting a modification to the amount of vehicles that could be stored there, that was very strictly circumscribed by the board, I'm asking for relief from the traffic impact statement. The applicant would then have to hire an engineer and secure his services to draft an impact statement, which will essentially say nothing's changing. So we're asking for that relief, along with the other waivers. Again, those waivers are all primarily related to items that were previously delivered to this board and approved by this board as part of the original approvals. I'll take whatever I can get. We will provide the community impact statement, but considering there's no change at all to the use on the site, it's just really a clerical issue. I'd ask if we can skip over the traffic impact analysis, but if the board really feels it's necessary, I'll find somebody to do it. But I think it's unnecessary for this application.
Thank you, Mr. Clauser. Ms. Shapiro?
So I did have an opportunity to speak with Vina this afternoon about the waiver request, and we certainly agree that a traffic impact statement is warranted, especially with the condition of the site currently, based on prior approvals. Not all site work has been completed on there. Things that were sort of, I don't want to say promised, but depicted on the plans are not in place currently. And I think we've all seen as a board, when a car service or a dealership or a license or some sort of expansion on a use is permitted, it tends to grow. So I think the board should have the benefit of a traffic impact statement to see what is it in writing that that the owner is saying is going to happen on the property. And I think that for the benefit of the review on the use variance, it's required.
I would agree with you. I've been by the site, and I was by it again today. Obviously, I was sitting on the board when we granted that in 17. And I'd also probably, before we hear this again, I'd like to see what the resolution and probably the minutes are. Because I'm not quite sure it's exactly what we said it was, or what we were led to believe. We have another place in town doing the same thing, so I think it might be important. So I'll ask the board members about their feelings, but the nice thing that you said was you'll take what you can get, I guess. So
Yeah.
it sounds
I
like,
wanted to present
it sounds like we
my,
might be, but I don't know. Let's hear it.
I wanted to present my case and my thoughts, but
Fully
whatever
understand.
the board needs, I'm going to make sure
I
he
understand,
does.
Mr. Clauser.
Yep.
Board members on my left, any comments or questions for Mr. Clauser?
I agree with Ms. Shapiro on the traffic.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah, I would like
Okay. Patty? Okay.
So then I would just ask that the balance of the waivers that Vina
Does
authorized
anybody
be
have a problem
granted.
with any of the other balance of the other waivers, as opined by Ms. Sawant, that they wouldn't be necessary because it's already a full build?
No.
So you'd be satisfied if we could get
Yeah.
what she prescribed was the community impact, what was it, Peter? Traffic?
Traffic impact and community impact, and we'll submit both
community.
of those then. I see where,
You'd be
what the board
satisfied
wants.
with that? Would you be satisfied with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Shapiro, anything else? No. Someone want to move that, the waiver for approval then, as stated, and we'll keep the other three in?
Move it.
Mr. Stoner moves it. Mr.
Second, Scogno?
Scogno, seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier? Yes. Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank you again,
lovely
Mr.
evening.
Clauser.
Okay.
I'm going to take the applications exactly how they are on the list. Once again, for the attorneys present, there's only 5 board members here tonight.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I mean, as you take them, you may want to just throw it out there to the attorneys and the applicants, because there are only 5. If someone wants to revisit their application tonight, now would be the time, so we can move efficiently through the ones that are going to stay and proceed.
I don't see Mr. Himmelman in the room. He's doing something tonight, too. Is Mr. DeLuca?
I believe so.
Mr. DeLuca, I would also just note that beyond the fact that there's only 5 here, because of the time frame too, when there's 3 applications, we're planning on giving each applicant 50 minutes. So if that has any bearing on whether you want to stay tonight or not, but nonetheless, if you want to vote with 5, I don't care, but it's your case, obviously, Mr. DeLuca. Okay, I'll read it into the record then, and you can come forward. This is 04-2022 ZGHS Properties Management LLC. This is the R20 zone, which is low-medium density residential. This is block 3236.12, lot 18. Location is 22 Oakland Court. It's for home addition requiring C and D variances. John DeLuca, Esquire, representing. Sir.
Yes, this is John DeLuca of the firm Bortles Cole & Foley on behalf of the applicant, GHS Properties Management LLC. As the chairman mentioned, this is 22 Oakland Court, block 3236.12, lot 18. This is a single-family residence in the R20 zone, which permits single-family use. We are seeking 2 variances tonight, 1 use variance, 1 bulk variance. The use variance is a D4 variance for maximum floor area ratio, where 0.17 is required and 0.263 is proposed. And the bulk variance is a variance for minimum front yard setback, where 50 feet is required and 42.5 feet is proposed. I will be presenting 3 witnesses tonight, Mr. Sagir Ahmed, the principal owner of the applicant entity, Mr. Ashraf Ragab, the applicant's architect, and then Mr. James Clarkin, the applicant's professional planner. So with that, I'd like to invite up Mr. Sagir.
Sir, the board attorney swear you in?
Mr. Sagir, could you raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm to testify truth in this matter before the board? Could we have the spelling of your first and last name, sir? You can put your hand down. Spell your first name, sir?
S-A-G-H-I-R, last name is Ahmed, A-H-M-E-D.
Thank you, sir. And you're the owner of the property, I believe,
Yeah.
counsel indicated.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Ahmed, you're the principal owner of the applicant entity, GHS Properties Management LLC, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Now, individually, you own the adjacent property, 18 Oakland Court, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is your plan for the subject property, 22 Oakland Court?
Subject property, my family, my brother.
Share that one.
Yeah, subject property, my brother living there with his 5 children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, where do you reside?
I reside at 18 Oakland Court, and we used to live together in Oakland Court, and now we have kids, more kids. I have 5 kids, and he have 5 kids, and we purchased that property, and he moved there.
So how long have you lived in Old Bridge?
I'm in Old Bridge last almost 24 year. I moved in December 31st, 1998. Yeah.
Is it safe to say you intend to stay in Old Bridge?
I'm very happy in Old Bridge. That's why back in 2005 I did a big addition in my house. So because I love this neighborhood, I love Old Bridge, and I live in there, and I'm enjoying, and I plan to live in the rest of my life.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your activity in the community and your connection to the community?
Yes, I'm very much with the community. I'm president of Islamic Center of Old Bridge and Islamic Center of Old Bridge, and I am very friendly with the community, with the neighborhood, with the friends, and I have 5 kids who they grew up here, born here, and I have no problem. I have a couple of neighbors here, and I'm very, very friendly with them. So I have, in last 23 years, I have no problem with anybody. I work so hard, and I raise my kids, and that's what I'm doing for a living.
Okay. Could you briefly explain to me your intention for the proposed renovations and additions?
The proposed renovation addition we are doing just for our kids having extra room. So first I proposed as a second floor addition, and I can have more room for my brother's children. And I submit the plan in April sometime. I got the approval in June, and then I submit the plan again in end of June or July for update permit. I got the approval, and after that I start the construction. And when I did the construction, when I complete whole the second floor framing, and I called for the sheeting inspection, and that time when the inspector came into the site, Mr. Kamen, and that time I become to know, just like 5 minutes before, I got the email from Mr. Damien Gill that whatever the update I submitted to the township, he just reviewed it, which is back in July. So that was in August 31st, I scheduled the inspection. So that time, he said that application did not come to me, and I see that attic area is more than the ratio area, which is more than 40%, and now you are required to go to the variance, or you can go back to the original approval. So that's how I got stopped, and I have visited Mr. Damien several times, which is he helped me for a couple of couple of plans, which is we talk about it, and then I have seen this construction is done already, and pretty much damage if I start ripping off the second floor ceiling and stuff, and I cannot knock down the roof to bring it down to make a lower attic because I was innocent. I didn't know anything. So then I was looking around to come to the variance, which is very expensive for me also. I have 5 kids, and 4 kids is going to college. You can imagine how hard it is to living. But then finally, I have no choice. I said, let's go to you. I live here 23 years, and I've been here a couple of times regarding another issue for the Islamic Center. And I know you guys always help, always listen to the clear and true story. So that's why I'm here in front of you.
So I just want to ask one clarifying question. So you received 2 approvals for permits, and then afterward you began construction on the project. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And then it was only after that the actual construction of the structure was completed that you were informed that you actually required variance relief for this project?
Yes, correct.
And what is the current status or state of the house at 22 Oakland Court?
Current status, the first floor, my brother living with the 5 kids, and the second floor is we just plugged down the stairs, and the roof, I did not get the permission from the building department to put the roof, so I have to They just told me that I have to do the weather tight, so, which is more costly to me, but I did the weather shield, ice shield to the whole house, the roof area, and all around the structure, I had to put the Tyvek paper, because that time when I called the sheeting inspection, I could not even put the window on the second floor, so I did not get a permission to even put the window, which is I sent the email to construction official 1 or 2 times, so I have no choice, so I just wrap around with the Tyvek paper.
Okay. Mr. Ahmed, I have no further questions for you unless the board has any questions for.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. I guess this question is more for the application than the applicant. Are you guys is anyone else gonna be testifying this evening?
Yes,
Okay,
we have the architect and a professional planner that will be
Oh,
testifying.
you know what, then, Chairman, I think it would be appropriate to reserve. I will say that to the best of Mr. Sagir's ability, he did explain the situation. I really don't take issue with anything that he said, so what he said is the story, what happened. I would just add one point of clarification. The permit update, just to clarify what happened with the township, was an application was filed for an addition. This was a 1.5-story home. They were proposing to construct a full second story over the existing structure. And at some point thereafter, a few months, an update came in where they were going to dormer this future attic area that was going to be built, which in effect made it a 3-story structure. Dormers are considered alterations, and they don't generally come to zoning for review. And once the permits were issued, it was discovered during inspections and some complaints that were received by my office that we now had a 3-story structure being built, and it was at that time that we were alerted. So it's kind of a confluence of things coming together at the same time. So just wanted to clarify that.
Of this witness, does anybody have any questions? On my left? You asking anything?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I just have one. You said you own the house, correct? But you don't live in it.
I'll just clarify, a legal entity, GHS Properties Management LLC, owns it. He's the principal owner of that entity.
He doesn't live in it.
Correct.
Are you planning on living in the house?
No, my brother.
Your brother with his 5 children? They're there now?
Yes.
That's all I have. You can bring it up.
My next witness will be Ashraf Ragab, the applicant's architect.
Good evening, sir. Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board?
I do.
And can we have your name again, sir?
First name is Ashraf, A-S-H-R-A-F. Last name is Ragab, R-A-G-A-B.
Thank you, sir. You're a professional architect?
Yes, I am.
So, Mr. Ragab, could you?
Yeah.
Give the board the benefit of your credentials, sir.
Yes, I graduated from City College in New York in 1994 with a Bachelor of Architecture. I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey since 2002, and I'm principal of Amrock Design Studio since 2001.
Thank you. You've testified before boards before, I'm sure?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ragab, how long have you been involved with this project?
From the beginning?
Okay. So are you familiar with the technical aspects of the proposal as well as the applicant's efforts to obtain municipal permits or approvals for the project?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please describe what previously existed on the property?
The existing structure was a 1.5-story single-family residence. And we were retained by Mr. Sagir and Mr. Tanwir to put an addition, a second-floor addition, a very minor first-floor addition, and a second-floor addition that would turn this into a full 2.5-story structure.
Okay. So, and then what currently exists on the property?
Currently, it's in the middle of construction. Basically, it's an unfinished project.
Okay. So, did you prepare the plans that were submitted to the board in connection with this application?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Could you please describe those plans and more specifically the proposed renovations or additions associated with the project?
We first proposed in April 8th, 2021, we proposed a second floor addition with an unfinished attic above and a pull-down ladder from the ceiling of the second floor to the attic. That application was permitted, approved, and issued a construction permit. The clients came back and they asked to put a 3-foot knee wall in the attic and put some dormers there, but still keep the attic as unfinished. So we did, and we submitted the drawings. We, bubbled all the revisions. We showed that this is being changed in the plans. Again, the application was approved. It was not my intention to apply for a 3-story structure. It was always a 2.5-story with an unfinished attic. And it was approved, and then construction started, and just like the zoning officer said, during the first layer of inspections, the client was stopped and was told that this is now a 3-story structure. We attempted to resolve the issues with 2 modifications to see if we can get it out of this 3-story issue, and it was not approved. So here we are in the variance.
Can you please tell me, does the proposal comply with the maximum height requirements for the R20 zone?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And can you tell me whether the proposal complies with the minimum setback requirements of the R20 zone?
There are some existing nonconformities, and we have, in the first design proposal, we stopped at the front yard setback. I believe the zoning officer communicated to my client that the second floor can be extended another 7.5 feet, which we did. So we are still less than the existing nonconformity on all areas, except for the covered porch that we're proposing in the corner of the property that nicks the round setback line by a few inches. That round setback line that goes across the existing garage, and then it just touches the porch by a very, very small area. That area is in the variance.
So, just to reiterate, in terms of what was there previously to what has been proposed, this proposal actually brings the property closer to setback compliance than it was before, correct?
Well, it doesn't make it worse.
Okay.
So whatever the existing nonconformities are staying there. So we're not extenuating any of the nonconformities.
So you mentioned these permits that were issued, and then an amendment and another permit issued. Can you tell me, was any work done on the project either before any necessary permits were issued or after the zoning officer sent his email indicating of a permit denial?
Not to my knowledge, no. When we went to measure and document the existing conditions, the project, there was no work done there. So we did all our drawings based on the existing condition, and the work didn't start until the second permit was issued, actually.
Okay. Could you please describe for me the ways that the applicant contemplated reducing the size of the home and ultimately the FAR variance?
We were told by the zoning officer that the attic now constitutes a 3rd floor, so we had to add it to the square footage. We did not add the attic to the square footage originally because it was always left as an unfinished attic out of the FAR. It was never considered to be a habitable space. But when we calculated the attic area, it was around, I think, 1,900 square foot, and the maximum, if we're going to be 40% of the floor below, was 800, or a little bit over 800 square foot. So we proposed to block off sections of the attic, leave them unfinished, and only finish 800 square foot, so that we are within the limit. That application was denied. We proposed removing the floor of the attic from some areas and making the second floor cathedral. Lowering the framing of the attic, putting collar ties across the attic to make it uninhabitable, and that also was denied. So here we are.
So just to reiterate, the applicant contemplated removing the dormers, removing the stairs, converting them to pull-down stairs.
That
and
was
even-
one of the proposals, yes.
And then essentially removing
I
the.
don't think we proposed removing the dormers. We only removed the full stairs to the second floor, replacing it with a original pull-down ladder, and blocking off sections of the attic to only have that 800 square foot being accessible from the stair.
And it's your testimony that those proposals were either rejected or looked upon disfavorably?
Yes.
Okay. So the options were either to seek variance relief from this board or tear out the work that had already been done, which was previously approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and obviously here we are. So the applicant is seeking variance relief as opposed to deconstructing the work that has already been done?
Yes.
I have no further questions for Mr. Raghav, but I'm sure the board likely does.
Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of questions. You said it was never your intention, it was never the intention of the application to make a three-story.
Correct.
When we discovered the issue and the difference of interpretation, I presented you with the township's ordinance, the zoning code, and what our definition is of a story. Is that correct? Do you recall that?
If you say
Well,
you did, yes.
What I'm getting at is, did you review our ordinance for story height, and did you come to a decision where, in essence, are you agreeing that it is a story per the definition of our ordinance, or are you maintaining that you feel you don't meet the requirement?
I read the planner's report that was just issued a couple of days ago, and it said that the roof has to meet the floor at a minimum of, or a maximum of 3 foot for more than 60%, I think, or 50% of the attic.
I believe the comment that he's referring to is comment, wait a second, comment C, under planning comments on page 4. So,
Which is the definition of an attic versus a floor.
3 foot above the floor level in which the possible floor area headroom of 5 feet or less occupies at least 40%. So, since,
But that's not true, because we are showing on the variance application 3 foot knee walls for the majority of the attic space.
3 foot knee walls?
That's what we're showing.
I thought they were 5 foot knee walls.
When they have the drones.
So, along the perimeter, you're showing a 3 foot knee wall, but step back 2 feet, you're showing the 5 foot shaded area, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So you're showing a 5 foot knee wall, but for purposes of determining the square footage in the ordinance, you're supposed to use the 5 foot knee wall to determine whether you go over the 60%. So you're showing a 3 foot knee wall, but just a foot in, you've got a 5 foot because of the pitch of the roof.
Right.
So when we calculate the percentage, are we over the 60%?
We are, yes.
Okay.
For the attic. But,
And you're going to put in smoke detectors on the third floor pursuant to the plans, and carbon monoxide detectors. That's what the plans indicate.
I mean, for a space this large, I think I'm required by code.
Well, not in an unfinished space. From my conversations, and you know the code better than me, so I'll defer to you, but under the Uniform Construction Code,
Well, I mean.
smoke and carbon aren't UL listed for unfinished spaces.
Well, as long as we had the pull-down ladder, we never even drew the attic space. But once the client asked to put a full stair, then.
You
we
presumed
felt-
that area was
We
gonna be
felt
finished.
that this stair would make that a space, not a full floor, but.
Usable.
Usable as a storage area, and then at that point, we felt that we should put a smoke detector and a CO detector there.
I would agree with you.
Yes.
So we're not in disagreement there. With regard to, with regard to the plans, I don't know that this is the right venue, but there were several iterations that we had gone through in terms of putting in collar ties,
Right.
constructing a makeshift truss system to make the space unusable. I felt like that was a waste of lumber, and we were talking pre-inflation numbers, so I agree, even more so now. But in terms of putting in a pull-down stairs, I think that would have changed the conversation a little bit. That was in fact something that we had offered. That was one of the recommendations my office made. And removing the dormers was something that I offered that would change the look, because the complaints we were receiving is that it looked like a three-story structure. So whatever the board decides to do, I think those are great recommendations if the board determined to look favorably on your application. That's not in Vina's report, but that would be one of the things that I would have recommended had I been sitting here and if I was preparing the report. My understanding is that the applicant, and he's welcome to answer to it, it's more to him, that those were things that he didn't want to do, or ultimately wouldn't meet the needs of what he wanted to accomplish.
He didn't want to remove the dormer because that would be demolishing the framing work, but we did propose the pull-down ladder. That was one of the proposals.
That was one of the things that you guys offered.
Yes, we
I
did.
rejected them, I think I rejected it in combination with the other elements that you guys wanted to have us accept, which was the square footage calculations, how you guys were determining the square footage calculations, and that's where we broke down.
We blocked areas of the attic, and we only calculated the area accessible from the stair. That's-
Yes, but those 5-foot walls, like I said, are only 3 feet away, or 4 feet away. I don't have a scale here. And I felt like that wasn't enough. So I wasn't necessarily, and if that was what was conveyed, I apologize. We didn't want to take away the idea of a pull-down stairs. I think that makes it, like you said, it changes the character and the usability of the space. So I think pull-down stairs would make a big difference, at least in the actual usage of the property. Whether that's going to make a big difference to neighbors or anything like that, I don't know. But that's all I have right now, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Nicole's not, you're not in on this, right? You're not in on this either, okay. Board members on my left of this witness. Mr. Scogno.
Mr. Gill, of the three non-conforming, which is the maximum front yard setback, are we confirmed on that? Is that settled?
I'm sorry, we confirmed?
Yeah, you're indicating the maximum front yard setback, non-conforming.
Yeah, that's an existing condition. They are, as the witness has testified, they are putting a small overhang over the front entry, which is creeping into the front yard a little bit, which is caused by the bulb in the cul-de-sac. So that is technically a new condition, but the bulk of the setbacks and what's reflected are greater, or the deficiency, I should say, is greater, and that isn't changing.
So you're satisfied with what, okay,
I
and
think,
what?
I think the board, I think Vina's report also says that, provided the testimony is given from the planner or the applicant's testimony, that they wouldn't have an issue.
And then the back and forth with the maximum floor ratio, where are we there, non-conforming?
Well, I think I should reserve those comments.
Okay, fine. And the building height, that's the dormers?
No, the building height, so as the attorney questioned the height requirements. What happens is definitionally, the property is now a 3-story structure, and we only allow 2.5 stories. One of the reasons is because it mirrors the Uniform Construction Code, because a lot of building standards change. That is exactly where we are. I think we have to hear the planner's testimony
Okay.
before we can make an opinion on that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on this side? Ms. Testenberry? Put your next witness on.
I'd like to call Mr. James Clarkin, the applicant's planner.
Mr. Clarkin, how are you, sir?
Good, you?
Good. Can you raise your right hand? You swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board?
I do.
Can we have your name for the record, sir?
James Clarkin, Clarkin.
You're a professional planner, Clarkin?
I am. I've been licensed in the state of New Jersey for 6 years, testified before other zoning boards, but not here before.
You're licensed in the state, you say, for 6 years, right? And you've testified
Correct.
before boards? We'll accept your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkin. Have you reviewed the plans, the application, and the township planner's report dated May 5th of this year?
Yes, I have.
All right, can you please describe the variances that the applicant is seeking in connection with this project?
Sure. So we are seeking 2 variances tonight in connection with this application. The first is for the maximum floor area ratio. The R20 zone calls for 0.17, and we are exceeding that and requesting 0.263. The second variance is for the front yard setback. So R20 zone calls for 50 feet. The existing home before any construction started was 42, and we are slightly improving that to 42 and a half. So slight relief, but the nonconformity will still exist. We are removing an existing nonconformity for the rear yard. Before the addition, it was 43 feet, where the zone called for 50 feet, and we have now bumped that up to 58 feet. So before I start justifying the first variance, which would be the D4 FAR variance, I just want to note that the proposed addition does not change the use. We are still meeting the low, medium density requirements of the R20 zone. It's still an existing single-family home. We're merely increasing the vertical size and the interior space. So therefore, it's my opinion we're in compliance with your 2017 master plan reexamination, and therefore, and also your, land development ordinance. So a D4 use variance for an increase in the permitted floor area ratio requires us to look at the site along with the proposed improvements and consider whether the site itself can accommodate the increase in FAR. So the burden of proof is a little bit lower than a normal use variance in that you don't need special reasons to be granted the D4. So after reviewing the site, I found 3 unique site characteristics that show the property can accommodate the vertical expansion and therefore the increase in FAR. They are the size of the lot, location of the property, and the footprint of the house, existing footprint. The size of the lot is just over half an acre, and this provides plenty of space, in my opinion, for a larger home, including the vertical expansion to 2.5 stories, depending on the definition, but no new setback variances are required as a result of the addition. 2, the location is on a cul-de-sac. So this gives the feeling of more open space because of the circular nature of the cul-de-sac, but also it opens up the property. If you look at the tax map, it's not a single box. Depending on which way you're looking, if you're looking at the home from the street, it would be the right side. The property line goes all the way to the top of the cul-de-sac. So this provides more open space. And then in addition to that, if you look at the tax map, the property at the top of the cul-de-sac, the backyard faces Oakland Court. So that gives this perception, but also actual open space, So where a higher home or a home with more square foot does not seem out of character, but it also allows the site to accommodate the vertical expansion. And then finally, I was talking about the footprint of the existing home. With the exception of increasing the front and rear yard setbacks, it's virtually staying the same. So we're not adding new setbacks variances. We're staying within the original foundation with minimal difference. So this keeps the increase in FAR reasonable, and in my opinion, does not overburden the site. On top of the site being able to accommodate the FAR increase, I believe the goals and objectives of the municipal land use law would be furthered by granting this D4 variance. I've noted purpose E and purpose I. So E is furthered as we are promoting the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that contribute to the neighborhood and community. So as I said before, we're not changing the single family home, and that's what the R20 calls for, so we meet appropriate population densities. And then purpose I is furthered as it promotes a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques. I believe our proposed addition is aesthetically pleasing, will provide a modern touch over what exists today. As I mentioned, I believe the goals and objectives of the master plan are furthered as we are keeping the low density. The negative criteria that we have to touch on for the D4 can be met, as I believe the variance can be granted without any detriment, much less a substantial detriment to the public good. The increase in FAR specifically does not have any negative impact for the community or neighbors, and the municipal land use goals of light, air, and open space are not being compromised whatsoever. Overall, I believe the proposed FAR can be accommodated by the site, and there will be no substantial detriment to the public good. So that is the testimony or the proofs for the D4, but I just want to touch on the front yard setback, the existing nonconformity. Even though we are slightly increasing it, we're not totally reducing it. But the nonconformity has existed for many years with no problems, and really, if you're standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac, it's virtually undetectable because of the tree cover, and it's only one house, two houses, and one across the street. If you were standing in the middle, you would not be able to tell the difference of 7 feet from the front yard versus the others that comply. So granting the front yard bulk variance would further the master plan, land use ordinance, the municipal land use goals I mentioned earlier, and the reduction of the nonconformity reduces the issue, in my opinion. Also, granting this front yard bulk variance will not cause a substantial detriment to the public good. So in summation, the positive criteria, in my opinion, outweigh any perceived negative criteria that may be attributed to our projects. The variances can be granted without substantial detriment to the township zone plan, master plan, and to the public good.
Nicole? You have anything?
No, I did hear the proofs that were put on the record, and, I was going through Vina's memo as the applicant's planner was testifying, and he did put the proofs on the record. I would just like Damien to comment on it.
Damien?
Okay, thank you. So I actually had a question real quick. When you were talking about the FAR, you said that there were 3 unique characteristics that you identified about the property that made it suitable?
Yes.
Was the first one, just so I hear you, the size of the lot?
Correct. So a little over
Okay.
20,000 square feet, half an
I
acre.
could just interrupt for a moment. Apparently, if you're watching this on TV, we've lost the video. I've just been told by the tech people. The sound, am I correct? The audio is still going out? Yeah. But we just don't have any, if you want to stay with us, it may very well come back. But we're still here and we're safe. We just lost the, I guess we lost the video feed. I'm sorry. Counselor, you can go back to.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so you were saying that the lot size, 20,000 square feet, made it suitable for an addition, or for an addition potentially of this size. My question is, how do you reconcile that with the FAR limitation, though? I mean, the lot is oversized. It's not a 20,000, it's almost 22,000 square feet. And
Yes.
you guys are asking for,
So I wouldn't say the lot's oversized, it's a minimum, right? It's minimum 20, so we're
Correct.
meeting that. And I would say that, so not in that neighborhood, but I think there are other residential uses in Old Bridge and other townships where you can fit 2.5 stories and this many square feet on 20,000 square foot lot.
Oh,
And it
okay.
has not caused any substantial detriment to the community or the neighbors.
okay. So what you're stating for the board is that the lot can accommodate the square footage
Exactly.
without,
So-
without overburdening the site?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's the proof. The site, in my opinion, can accommodate the
Okay.
increase in FAR.
All right, that explains that for me. So with regard to the square footage and the report, did you have a chance to review?
I do.
Ms. Sawant's report? So one thing that I was hoping you were going to touch on was her analysis of the zone and try to combat with that. Because one of the things that the board has to do when they're considering the application is whether or not it's consistent with the neighborhood and the design scheme. And they provided a chart that shows the existing FARs for the surrounding community. And you might notice a trend there. I was hoping you were going to address that, because that certainly would go towards the positive criteria, I would think.
So I would say that you do want to obviously consider the community around it, but if you are looking strictly at the law, it's not about the neighboring properties, it's whether that site can accommodate the increase.
Was there anything?
Sorry,
I'm sorry, I don't
touch
wanna-
on. Yeah, go ahead.
No, please, please.
I was just going to finish. I know it's a bit of a dispute, but if you take away the unfinished attic space, we would be much closer to what the community is there now.
So there
I
would
think
still be an FAR variance if the attic
There
was
would,
included?
but it would be.
But it would be almost de minimis?
Exactly.
Okay. With regard to the property in terms of topography, did you have occasion to visit the site?
I have to say, I'm sorry.
saw
I was aware
or
of
see
that, but I did
photographs,
not.
street
But
views?
I did street view and all that, yep.
Was there anything about the topography that might have made it, that it masked the height of this structure? Because you started talking about that a little bit, but,
Yeah, so I would say the location helps with that. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but there might be a slight hill. I'm trying to remember, but the way the other neighbors are situated, their backyards are facing that, and then the neighbor, so he's lot 18, so no, so lot 19 would be the neighbor. There's a wall of trees are there already, I believe, so that would help screen the addition.
and the last comment here is, there was nothing presented by the applicant to suggest that the attic wouldn't be used. Certainly, there was nothing offered that they would use it, but if the board reviews this application and determines to act favorably on it, they are acting on approving the overall square footage, so that third floor could be usable space, and the board should be aware of that in any decisions that it decides to make. Chairman, I think that's all. I'd like to take a moment to just review and make sure I didn't miss anything that Vina may have wanted on the record.
Mr. Chairman, just for the board's education, Vina had put in her report, if they built the home to the FAR that's permitted by ordinance, they are permitted a home that is the size 3,719 square feet. What they're asking the board to approve tonight is a home that is 5,762 square feet, because they're asking for the approval of that attic space, even though they mentioned a pull-down staircase. Also, that figure number 2, which Vina had put on page 5, where she illustrates the estimated FAR for each of the surrounding homes, that's important because, you know, when you're looking at the FAR of 0.10, 0.146, 0.19, 0.10, 0.089, as compared to what the applicant is requesting of 0.263, you have to take a look at that and how it's going to change the characteristic of that neighborhood. Is it changing? Is that the intent of the zoning for this area? So that's the decision here tonight.
Your point, the existing is .128. While we talk about 1.7, it's 1.28. And you want to increase it to .263. You're doubling the amount. And no one put on the record what the square footage was before and what it's going to be after. I think that's significant for the board to hear. And if they miss that, what is it, 21, where am I at here? The house would be limited to 3719. It's presently, if I'm not mistaken, 21 and change, and it's going to go to 5762. That's a significant change. And, hold on, sir, we'll get back to you. And what you're changing in that zone, and I think that figure number 3 is so significant, that the closest one I see is 191, which happens to be the neighbor, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm really baffled about is the words approval were used, that the town gave approval. And I think what was approved was permits. So there's no approval from this board, and the testimony made it sound as if this was all approved and the applicant or the contractor or someone mistakenly built a third floor, which I find very hard to believe.
Respectfully, perhaps that was my miswording. It was not my intention to be in any way deceptive, and in no way was my client's intention to be deceptive. My client has always come to the township clear and transparent, setting forth these proposals. You're absolutely right. Approvals were not granted, permits were issued, and pursuant to those permits, construction was performed,
And once the requirements for variance were, once my client was noticed that variances were required, all construction stopped, and everything's been put on hold for many, many months.
Correct. I visited the property today, and while you call it a 2.5, it's a 3-story for all intents and purposes if you view it. It towers over any other property in the area. The house next door, they face out towards the street, so they wouldn't be looking at that side of the home. The home sits also facing out towards the street. But the build it's very unusual, the way it was done. But clearly, the intent, in my opinion, was to build a 3rd floor for usage. I can't imagine why anybody would spend that money to do that without intending to use it. And that was probably the problem that you've had with the permits, that was not what was submitted for build. And in turn, they built something else, and that's why I guess I don't know if they put a stop order on, but I guess it was up for review.
Sir, if you're going
Yeah,
to speak.
you've already been sworn, so.
I have a couple comments
Sure.
to make. First, the plans were submitted twice, exactly as they were going to be built, and they were both approved by the building department, not by this board, but by the construction office and the zoning office, and we were issued a permit for construction. We did not need to come for a variance both times. So we did not change the plans in any way or form. The second version of the drawings are exactly what was built on the premise. They showed everything that was done. They showed the exact heights and the dormers and the windows, and everything that was built right there was 100% as per the construction documents. The second comment I'd like to make is the FAR is being calculated as 2.6 something, and that is taking into account 1,900 square foot of attic space that we are not considering habitable, but the township is considering habitable. So once you remove that 1,900 square foot from the 5,400 square foot that you're calculating, you'll find that we are 100% within the limit for the neighborhood, and we are not really above the FAR by much. So the issue is looking at that attic space. Not only are you calculating it as a floor, but you're calculating as a habitable floor. So meaning that it will be used as habitation, not just as storage. And in that case, you're adding it to the FAR, and you're coming up with that 0.26 thing. That is not what we calculated. So I just want to clarify that.
Mr. Chairman, to be fair, this issue of you calculating, us versus the board calculating, or the town versus you, I mean, it's set by ordinance, and that's what the calculation requires. So it's not a matter that's being made up. That's the math that's the calculation, and you're here asking for variance relief.
With all due respect, I've designed 5,000 and 6,000 square foot homes all over the state of New Jersey. They have attics that are in the thousands of square foot, and they are never calculated in the FAR. They don't even show on the floor plans because they're just considered unfinished attics. And with 8 on 12 or 10 on 12 roofs, you can have 5,000 square foot in the attic if you want.
And I can appreciate that, but in this neighborhood, are there 5,800 square foot homes?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't live in Old Bridge, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was hired to design this particular house, yes.
We can ask the planner.
I'd just like to respond to one comment the chairman made. You mentioned that you visited the site and that it towers over the other homes. I just want to highlight for the board, this home and this proposal does comply with the zoning ordinance's height requirements. So although it might appear larger than the other homes, it is underneath the actual height requirement.
Clearly, it does at 35, but it does tower over the other homes. It's up by a story.
And if they, respectfully, if they wanted to construct something that went up to 35 feet, they would also be allowed to do so under the ordinance.
Should that happen, yes, should they come forth.
Chairman, I would like to just clarify one thing that the architect said. We had spoken about it at the beginning of this hearing. The building department did issue a permit and did issue a subsequent permit approval for an update. but the zoning office did not. The zoning office reviewed the initial application and approved the initial application. We never approved the dormer. We never reviewed the dormer. The dormer came in as a revision to the existing plan and went through the building department, which I told the applicant before this became an application that the building department should not have done that. But the zoning office never approved the dormer and then walked that back. We walked back the original approval. So that, and I also want to reconcile a statement that the architect made. You can't say that taking the square footage of the attic out of the equation, even if we did set it aside for a moment, say that we're within the limit and then say we're only minorly over. We're over, whether you take into consideration the attic or not. And that's why the planner had to put on the proofs that he put. So we're still over, maybe de minimis, but we're still over, whether you'd agree with the definition. But you could have also applied for an interpretation. You guys opted to apply for a variance for a reason, I think.
Mr. Clark, are you finished? I know that the applicant himself is waving his hand, but it's not mine to tell you, your attorney has to advise you what to do.
Did you have any more?
I want to make sure the board doesn't. On my left, for Mr. Clarkin?
If there's anybody here from the public, I would like to hold off until I hear from them.
Well, you want to make your comments now because the public's going to come last.
Yeah.
I'll hold off until after that.
Well, Mr. Skogner, the way the process is going to work, if you have any questions for the planner, you should ask him now, because then he's going to be relieved, and then at the very end, members of the public can come up and ask their questions or make their comments.
No comment at this time.
Okay, anybody else on my left?
No.
No? Mr. Testaverde, no?
I'd like to invite my client back up.
Sure. He's already been sworn.
I like to state that we never intend to use the attic. It was built as per plan, and the reason we built the attic, I'm a general contractor, and wherever, as Brother Ashraf mentioned, wherever we build the attic, I personally advise my client that you should build the attic with the proper step, so you don't have to go with the pull-down step to use as a storage. And I did many houses like this, and when we come to my own home, so that's why I said, I changed, when it's a pull-down step, I said, let's have a proper step. But after that, I have a couple of meetings with the Mr. Damien, and I say, I will give a written affidavit that I will not going to use the attic as a living space, because the kids, we have 5 kids, and we have enough room on the second floor and the first floor for them. So we can build 7 room, like 3 room on the first floor and 4 room on the second floor, or 3 room on the second floor. So we really don't need an attic for living space. If you figure out, if you look the square footage and you look at the first approval of Mr. Damien, that is show you the attic square footage is approved by Damien, Mr. Damien, is about 1,500 square feet. Is approved by the zoning when we start initial approval, first approval. And then we add the dormer, and as per Mr. Damien, the dormer also increased couple of hundred square footage. So if you look on the first initial approval, and if you include the square footage of the attic, it's about 1,400, which is approved by Mr. Damien.
Why did you change it?
Is the first plan when we submit.
My question would be, why did you change it then?
No, we did not change it.
You said you put the dormers in instead.
We just add the dormer and the stairs.
That's what I'm saying. Why did you change it?
So we feel like we have, when we want to do the construction thoroughly, and we feel like the dormer makes more light in the...
You're a builder, sir, you said, right?
Yeah.
You're in the construction business.
Yes, sir.
So you're very familiar with this process.
Yeah, so proper step into the storage is big storage. And like Mr. Damien said, if the building department review the update permit, But I'm kind of stuck in the middle with the zoning and the building. I got the approval, I gave it to my framer, and he built it. So now I'm here to asking you to, help me with that project. So,
You're asking for forgiveness rather than seeking permission.
given
In essence.
I don't know if that's accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Well, he's a builder, and it's his home he's building, and it's his own family who's living there. He certainly knows the routine, and he certainly knows what the plans that he'd put forward, and he chose to change them, not us, not the building department, and the zoning board doesn't know anything about this. This is the first time we see it when we get this. But it's through his own hand that he chose to put a stairway up there, which most people would think, well, what would you want a stairway for? To be able to walk up there.
yeah,
And why
that's
would you
why.
have that much space? Why do you want the dormers in there? That was
Exactly.
your client's choice, not ours. So I think he's blaming the building department.
The only thing I'm aiming to clarify is that he did in fact receive permits to construct, and then those were retroactively withdrawn after the construction was completed.
Did they include the dormers?
Yes.
Mr. Gills?
Yes, Chairman. The permits that the building department issued approved the updates, approved the dormer that my office never reviewed. So when Mr. Seguir is saying that we approved an application that had 1,400 square feet, well, the first iteration showed an attic space. So in a technical sense, perhaps I should have flagged it at that point and said, the square footage is too much, but when you don't have windows that can be used for egress, when you don't have smoke detectors, the area is not finished, and there's pull-down stairs, my office may not have even considered that. It was bringing the windows through the dormer, the smoke detectors, the finished space, and regular stairs that made us say, wait a minute, this is another floor. So I don't want to miscategorize the applicant, and I do want to clarify on behalf of the applicant. They did receive permits. They didn't do anything afoul of the permits. What they did was they ran afoul of the zoning ordinance, which we identified after the permits were issued. So I do want to clarify that.
Well, I understand that they received the permits, but they changed it.
No.
You didn't know?
They
The building department
The
didn't.
building department approved those changes. My office did not.
And they should not have, is what you're
They
saying?
should not.
Okay, that's clear.
So just to clarify, my client acted on those permits that were improperly issued. He did not aim to deceive the town and then build something against what, in contradiction to what was applied for.
Well, but to be fair, I mean, a builder or any applicant has to comply with the zoning ordinance, right?
Absolutely,
So
and that's why
ignorance is
all-
not a defense, but,
And
okay.
that is why all construction stopped immediately, and now we are here, because my client just wants to comply with what is required.
Understood. You have any other witnesses?
This is it.
I'm going to go to a public portion at this point, okay? Because we're already up to 55 minutes, and then I was going to give everybody 50. Board, last time for the gentleman, the applicant again. Anybody have any questions now that he's come back up? No? Okay. No, I believe that's it. This is 04-2022Z located at 22 Oakland Court. Does anybody here in the courtroom want to be heard on this matter? Please come forward, ma'am. The board attorney will swear you in. You have to stand right in front of that microphone that's standing there. It's a directional microphone, so it means you have to talk right to it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Thank you, ma'am. Can you raise your right hand and swear affirm to testify truthfully before the board?
Right, I do.
Can we have your name, ma'am?
My name is Joyce Good, Goode.
And where do you live, ma'am?
I live at 13 Oakland Court,
13. Okay.
okay?
Thank you, Damien.
I live at 13 Oakland Court. I've been a resident of Old Bridge for 27 years. These have been my neighbors for 21 years, okay? I raised 3 kids here. One is in his 30s, another's 24, another is 21. Our families grew up together. I, as a neighbor of them who's looking directly at the home that is being built, I have no problem with it. My neighbors to my right have asked me, and my neighbors to my left, we've all had conversations about when is that house going to be completed. okay? It would benefit us as a neighborhood to have that house completed fully. Now, in the Cheesequake Woods development where we live, there are 3 other houses that are oversized. There's a house on Hallandale, there's a house on Balmoral, and there's a house on Wayland. I don't know if they were subject to the same things that this family is subject to with the construction being stopped, but it's not only unfair to them, it's unfair to us as neighbors, okay? And I'm sitting here listening to you talk about attic space. I live at 13 Oakland Court. I have an attic, and I have the original house, no upgrades. And I've been in that house for 21 years. I have an attic that is over my garage with pull-down stairs. I have an attic that is over the bedrooms that don't have pull-down stairs, that you have to have a ladder in order to get up there. And in that space, that is where the air conditioner unit is, and the other attic is for full storage. I am asking you as an Oakland Court neighbor, and I was the representative for my block for many years, voted in by the development. I am asking you to grant them permission to finish that construction, because as long as it looks like that, then that's an eyesore to the development. We have manicured lawns, we have nice property, we have a quiet neighborhood, and to be really honest, I am tired of looking at this unfinished property. Please grant them permission to move forward, because it's not fair to us as neighbors. Anybody have any questions for me?
Not questions, ma'am. I'm just going to make a comment. You understand he's here because of, it's a zoning issue.
No,
That's all.
I understand that. And when they started constructing the house, we as neighbors were excited. We're very excited. The house that sits to the right of me, when they expanded that house that is right next door to me, we were excited. They put in an entire apartment in that house. A living room, a kitchen, a bedroom, and a bathroom. I, as a neighbor, didn't complain. When they put in the same thing on Hallandale, they made an exact house attached within a house. Kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms, living room, and dining room. No complaints. The same thing on Wayland. Now we have complaints here. This construction needs to finish, because you know what? It affects our property values as long as it's sitting there looking like it's sitting. It looks terrible.
I would certainly agree with you that you have a beautiful neighborhood, as a matter of
We
fact.
do.
And I would also agree with you that it needs to be finished.
Absolutely.
So one other house coming in on Balmoral that needs work. I don't know if anybody's living in it at
The
present.
one on the corner, Balmoral and Hallandale.
Yes.
That sale is pending.
Okay.
Okay?
That's good for your
And
neighborhood.
I'm also asking you, number 10 across the street from me, that house has been vacant for about 4 or 5 years, okay? The construction on that house, they have wood in 2 windows for about 2 years now, which is a disgrace. Okay, now the awning is falling off the house. Give them permission to finish these houses, because it affects my property. And I've been in this neighborhood for 21 years, in this town for 27 years. Grant them permission to finish, and grant them across the street from me permission.
They may not be in front of the board. Maybe not be a
Well,
zoning issue.
they are. Give them
I was
permission
just
to
going to say,
finish.
man, we're only talking about
Okay,
this
give them permission to finish, because you know what? It affects all of us as neighbors.
We thank you very much for your comments.
Okay?
Anybody else? Come on up, sir. You could state your name, the board attorney will swear you in.
My name is Khan Sifula, Khansaifula.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truth in this matter before the board,
Yes.
sir? And could you give me the spelling of your name, sir? I'm not that fast. Go ahead.
Khan, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. And your last name?
Last name?
Huh? Yeah, Saifullah.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit newer to this community.
We need your address also, sir.
25 Woodsend Drive, which is pretty close. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm a little newer to the community. I've been living here for like almost 2 years now. It's going to be 2 years soon. And I'm, for various health reasons, I'm bedridden sometimes, right? Like, and when I look outside, that's the only thing I can look outside sometimes, right? And I see a big eyesore. It's embarrassing. I don't feel good living in a neighborhood where like it's so beautiful. There's like it's near the park and everything, and the neighborhood is so nice. And then I look outside and I see this big eyesore. I don't personally think that it should be like that. It's been like this for like 6-7 months, I think. I haven't been keeping track, but every time I look outside, every time I go outside, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed looking at it. I'm embarrassed to look at it. I'm embarrassed for the community. It doesn't look good in our community like that. And I'm embarrassed for their kids because if they're living in a house like that where the Tyvek is flying all over the place, I have nothing else to say about it.
Well, sir, just so I'm clear, are you in favor of
I'm in favor
what
of
they're
that.
trying
I
to
would love
build?
if you guys disapprove it. I mean, it's just been sitting there. I mean, it's just Tyvek and wood right now.
Thank you. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to talk? Have a comment? Come on up, sir. Same thing would apply. Please state your full name, and the board attorney will swear you in.
Raise your hand, sir. You swear or affirm to testify truthfully this matter before the board? And can we have your first and last name, sir, and spell it if you don't mind?
My first name is Muhammad, and the last name is Ilahi.
Spell that.
Ellahi. And Muhammad is the Muhammad.
Your address, sir?
My address is 26 Oxford Court, and that's in Medawan, Old Bridge.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, all right. So, well, I've been living in Medawan for the last 6+ years now.
When you say Matawan, you mean Matawan proper or Old Bridge with Matawan mailing
Yes,
address?
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, same
Right.
zip code. And I've known this family for the last 10+ years. We used to come their property for weekend get together, like dinner, barbecue kind of stuff. And I mean, I've seen this house. It was kind of rusty and old house. And when they bought it, it was kind of good news for the community because I know they are builder. They're gonna upgrade the house and based on their needs. And they have 5 kids, and they've been living in that house for like 6-7 months now. I can feel the pain because I've been planning to upgrade my house as well. But the only reason I'm planning it because I don't want to have the construction while my kids are living in there. So I'm planning to take some trip. So trying to estimate and get the idea how long it's going to take for me, the construction. So they are giving me a lot of good ideas about the time frame and so I can do my own update. The reason I'm in their favor is that this is a beautiful house, neighborhood. And when I bought my house in Medawan, I never showed it to my wife till I bought it, because I know she was mad at first, but I know she's gonna.
It could be a mistake.
The only reason I bought this house because I saw the neighborhood; it was beautiful, and it's a dead-end round neighborhood, and I love it. And in my second visit, I put the offer upfront to the owner. With a couple of communication, I bought this house. Then I showed it to my wife. The reason I'm telling all this because this neighborhood is beautiful. And this house upgrade is definitely going to add the value. And it's even going to look more beautiful, especially that street. It's the dead end and beautiful house. So I would be giving my words like we should give the permission, make the construction complete. Secondly, the kids are living in like for like 5 or 6 months now. It's kind of painful, especially the young kids and the growing school-going kids. They've been living there 6-7 months. More than that, yeah. So I think we should finish up this project ASAP.
Point well taken. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, sir. Come on up. State your name. The board attorney will swear you in.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Awan. I live
You-
in,
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully this matter before the board, sir? And let's have your name again, sir, please.
Muhammad Awan,
Oh, your last name, sir?
AWAN,
And where do you live?
25 Woodson, Woodson.
Okay, so you can put your hand down. What is it you want to tell the board?
I just like to say the same thing, like when I wake up, I have to go to work, I just look the Tyvek flying around, and it looks so much ugly like this. Why we not, just get to the solution and let them build, and we can see nice house over there instead of wood and Tyvek flying. Any live in, we hear all that. It's so much ugly like this. And I like to see a nice house over there. When I open my door, I gotta see the Tyveks.
All right, again, I reiterate, it is a beautiful neighborhood
Yeah, it is.
and very nice and quiet. Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
Sir?
My name is Tanveer Spall, and I live on that house, 22 Oakland Court.
Sir, may I ask you to raise your right hand? You swear to or affirm to testify truth in this matter before the board? And I need your first and last name again,
First
sir.
name Tanveer, Tanvir, and the last name Spall, Spall.
And your address, please, sir.
22 Oakland Court.
You live in the house.
I live in the house.
Go ahead, sir. What do you want to tell
I
us?
live in the house with my kids. And the issue is attic. Whatever, simple is that whatever we build with the permit. And if the attic space issue, like Joy said, she have a one side the space and she didn't have even a pull out, so we can do the same thing, access to go inside. We're not gonna even pull out the stairs and just use as the storage, because I have my big family, kids, and even we did the new plan, but we don't have a storage space. We don't have a big closets. So all those stuff, we have to store it somewhere, so we can have the ladder to go up there and put the stuff. And if even you want to close
Well,
it, you can
sir,
close it.
we appreciate your comments, but you saying that, it sounds like you're saying you would revise the plans. That's not your decision. That's the applicant's decision. So I understand you're saying what you could or could not use in the home and what you would be happy with, but that's not your decision to make, and you can't say that.
It's the
You
same
can say
thing.
that, but it
We are
has no
brother, and
bearing.
I'm gonna live over there, and in the future, I mean, that's gonna be my home. So my kids live there, and every day, I mean, they were asking me when we gonna have a room to live. Right now, we are living in two kids in a room, or they are sleeping in the dining room or living room. So if the attic space, the way you wanna block it, we give us many options to put the lumber over there. Lot of lumber, so we cannot even go over there and use it that area. 800 square feet plus, we can use it legally. Even you want to block that, we can do it. But the lumber we bought it, that time was the peak time of the lumber. What $30 lumber, we pay $90 a piece. That time when we built the house. And we bought from the Madison lumber, and we have all the seeds too. It's a lot of money. We cannot tear down the whole house, what we build with the permit. And every day my kids, whenever it's raining, the water is dripping, and we get up at the middle of the night. The wind come, and all the tarp, all the Tyvek paper is making so much noise, and my 6-year-old kid, sometimes he get up at night and start crying. And we live in a nice neighborhood, and spending a lot of money. We spending, over about $1 million on that house and living with the Tyvek.
How many bedrooms did you say you have?
Right now,
Yeah.
3,
And how many are you going to have?
4 and 3, 3 and 3, 6.
So 3 and 3,
Yeah.
right? There's 3 on the bottom, and 3 on the
No,
top.
We have a 3 on the first floor, and we're living on there.
Correct, that's what I'm saying.
And if we're gonna build 4 bedroom upstairs, so it's gonna be a 7 bedroom. And if we build 3 bedroom upstairs, it's gonna be a 6 bedroom.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. We'd like to go around, let me see if anybody else wants to speak first, ma'am, and I'll give you one more chance. Anybody else want to be heard on this matter? All right, you'll have the last word, ma'am. Come on up. You're already under oath. Mrs. Joyce Good.
Good with an E. One thing I do want to say is when the weather's bad or the wind is strong, that white paper that covers the house, I don't know what it's called, it blows, it makes noise. When it rains, it's just not a nice sight to see. So something needs to cover that.
That's the Tyvek they're talking about.
Yeah, whatever that white covering is, I don't know what you call it, but that needs to be finished. So that's the only thing I wanted to say, because it is, it's not aesthetically pleasing, number one, and I do feel bad for their children, because their children are young. My kids are adults, their children are children. So, 6-year-old, so you can tell how young their children are, if his youngest is 6.
Understood, thank you. I'm going to close the public portion in this matter. Counselor, last words?
Yeah, so my last word is I just strongly encourage the board to look to the actual statutory criteria for this variance. That's the impact to the neighborhood. That's the special reasons for granting the variance. You've heard the overwhelming support from the community. My client has gone through many iterations, many possibilities of how to decrease the burden of this FAR variance. I think the one that's been talked hearing has been the stairs. But as the zoning officer pointed out, even if you converted these to pull-down stairs, we would still require an FAR variance under the ordinance. But if that's what it requires for this approval, this board has the power to grant this approval and impose conditions on its approval at the same time. So if its approval is with the condition that the existing staircase needs to be taken out and a pull-down staircase needs to be inserted for the FAR approval, so be it. My client is prepared to accept that. But nonetheless, that's not going to change the township's interpretation of its own ordinance, and it's not going to change our burden. So again, I just encourage you to please look to the statutory criteria, please listen to the testimony that was presented for you, and please listen to the overpouring public outcry to approve this project and let it be completed.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Before I assume you're going to ask me to call for a vote, right? And before I do so, I'm going to let the board weigh in on any issues that they may have, and then you can decide whether you want to take a vote, all right? Sure. Mr. Mr. Gill, you've seen this. Would the pull-down stairs be better if we remove the other stairs, or is that just going to be a burden?
I don't think it's an arbitrary burden. I think that it goes towards utilization. Pull down stairs. One thing that we have to understand that when we're talking about construction is accessibility. Like in many towns, we were talking about what other people have done in other places. In many towns, it's not okay for you to have bedrooms in the basement. In some towns, they adopt ordinances that prevent it. But if certain construction measures are taken, some towns allow you to do it, like Old Bridge. If you have egress windows, things like that, you can do that. In a similar vein, if the attic is not accessible via regular stairs, I think that does change the technical, if not technical aspect, the actual utilization of the board. One of the things that I think Vina and I discussed that I thought I made clear, but I'll make clear again, is that if the board's going to act favorably on this, there should be some type of condition that prevents utilization of the third floor, the attic space, as anything other than storage. And I think that does help. Does it satisfy the board that the burden has been proven? I'll leave that to the board to decide.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Mr. Dasty, that would be perfectly all right if we put that in, correct?
Sure, it could be a condition of approval, Mr. Chairman, and I think Mr. Gill's suggestion certainly is a reasonable one.
And if the tenor of the applicant here is that they're not going to use that, that would be
as usable space. Absolutely, it would be a condition in the resolution, and if they were to do it, it'd be a violation of their approval, and they'd be back here again.
DeLuca, would you be in agreement with that? Let me see the other board members. I'll start on this side, and I'll go right over to Ms. Testaverde. Mr. Scogno? Good. No? Ms. Chevalier, okay. Mr. Stoner? You're good? Ms. Testaverde? Okay. I have nothing further to add myself, so if you'd like me to call for a vote, I will. All right. This is a D4 first. If that survives, it'll be a vote.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. As I understand it, well, I'll wait for a motion. I can
Okay.
further.
Is there a motion for a D4? I'll tell you what, I'll make it. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
And as I understand it, it's with the condition that the plans will be revised to be pulled downstairs to the third floor. The third floor will not be usable space other than for storage.
Storage.
Correct, not habitable living space.
Not habitable living space. You have a motion and a second, sir.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
No.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
No.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes, but you've been defeated on the motion, so. Okay. That's where we stand. There's a denial. Take a 5-minute recess, please. You're doing the next one, right, Deb? Okay.
You don't want to take away the idea of a pool downstairs. I think that makes it, like you said, it changes the character and the usability of the space. So I think pool downstairs would make a big difference, at least in the actual usage of the property. Whether that's going to make a big difference to neighbors or anything like that, I don't know. But that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. You're not in this, right? You're not in this either, okay. Board members, somebody left of this witness. Mr. Stagno.
Mr. Gill, are the three non-conforming, which is the maximum front yard setback, are we confirmed on that? Is that settled?
I'm sorry, we confirmed?
Yeah, indicating the maximum front yard setback, non-conforming.
Yeah, that's an existing condition. They are, as the witnesses testified, they are putting a small overhang over the front entry, which is creeping into the front yard a little bit, which is caused by the bulb in the cul-de-sac. So that is technically a new condition, but the bulk of the setbacks and what's reflected are greater, the deficiency, I should say, is greater, and that is changing.
So you're satisfied with what? Okay.
And I think Venus report also says that provided the testimony is given from the planner or the applicant's testimony, that they wouldn't have an issue.
And then the back and forth with the maximum floor ratio, where are we there, non-conforming?
Well, I think I should reserve those comments.
Okay, fine. And the building height, that's the dormers?
No, the building height, so as the attorney questioned the height requirements. What happens is definitionally, the property is now a 3-story structure, and we only allow 2.5 stories. One of the reasons is because it mirrors the Uniform Construction Code, because a lot of building standards change. That is exactly where we are. I think we have to get a planner's testimony before we can make an opinion on that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on this side? Ms. Nesbitt? Put your next witness in.
I'd like to call Mr. James Larkin, the applicant planner.
Mr. Clark, how are you, sir? Can you raise your right hand and swear affirm to testify for the board?
I do.
We have your name for the record.
James Clarkin, C-L-A-R-K-I-N.
You're a professional planner? Okay.
I am. I've been licensed in the state of New Jersey for 6 years, testified for other zoning boards, but not here before.
Daycare. As you know from the application and materials, we are here tonight to seek preliminary and final site plan approval along with D use variance and bulk C variance. For the record, the property is identified as block 22-100, lot 29.53, which is, as you know, vacant and forested and located at the intersection of Marlborough Road and State Highway 18. As you know from the application materials, we propose to develop the property as a 14,184 square feet, single-story senior adult daycare center. The property is located in your R15 residential zone district, and you will hear some testimony from principal of the applicant, but just sort of familiarize yourself a little bit. Generally, the adult daycare will be open with its first program running approximately from 8:30 in the morning to 1:30, and then a second program beginning at 10 and ending at approximately 7 p.m., and that, of course, would be Monday to Friday. On Saturdays, there may be an occasional program in the morning, usually ending about 1:45. And I understand that the facility will be closed on Sundays. As some of the board members may be aware, and it was identified in the staff's report, this property had actually had an approval for a use variance and site plan approval, which ironically I handled that application. I think it was back in 2005 or 6 and 7. So
I was on the one in 7, but you got the original approval in 5 or 6.
right.
Yeah.
So don't strike me for my age.
Nor me.
Yeah, right. And Mr. Chairman and members of the staff, you know that ultimately the board did approve that application for a prior use variance for a medical office building, and we did get site plan approval of the applicant at the time. My understanding is the medical office, the proposed then medical office was to be approximately have a footprint of 9,768 square feet, and it's our contention, you'll hear from our engineer and planner, that the applicant really believes that that medical office use was certainly more intense than what's proposed, given the fact that in a medical office, obviously, you have patients, employees, and overall operations, and there's a lot more activity that would occur than the proposed use, and you'll hear some description about that. Further background, as you'll hear from the applicant, the adult art daycare center will have approximately 20 full-time staff employees and 7 part-time employees per shift on site during normal business hours. It's anticipated that the business will have approximately 120 participants when the business is at full operation. The adult daycare customers will be dropped off and picked up at the property by vans and buses that the applicant oversees. Most drivers take those vans home at night, and you'll hear that from the applicant as well. And generally, those buses will not be parked at the property at night, but there may be an occasional one or two. There's not likely to be any drop-off of any customers or their families at the property. And as you know from the plans, there are proposed to be 37 parking spaces for adult daycare, for the adult daycare use. You will hear testimony from the applicant and principal of Reliance Adult Daycare, Amrish Bahimi, who's the principal, both of the Reliance Daycare Inc., which is the operator, if you will, and then the landowner, which is Route 18 Property LLC. The applicant, Mr. Bahimi, operates always at home adult daycare center, which is located here in Old Bridge. So you may be familiar with his operation. My understanding, he's been open for business here approximately 2007, and it's his intention, should the board favorably approve this application, he would relocate that business here in town to the subject property with the improvements. As you know, the applicant is seeking D use variance relief pursuant to the municipal land use law at NJSA 40:5570D1, and that's related to permitted uses and buildings, as the proposed adult daycare use is not permitted in your R15 zoning district. There are also a variety of bulk variances that are also requested. There was an issue raised in your staff memorandum about the maximum floor area ratio variance. We're going to discuss that at length. Your professionals indicated that may be a D4 variance. I think our engineer will explain why that may not be the case, but nevertheless, it's a variance that we need. Also, minimum landscape ratio, the buffer along the arterial roadway, parking size stall, two-way driveway, and wall-mounted signage. These are variances and/or waivers that we also need. As you will hear from the applicant's planner relating to the D1 variance, the laws conferred upon zoning board the following powers. In particular cases and for special reasons, to grant a variance to allow departure from regulations to permit a use or principal structure in a district restricted against such use or principal structure. As you know from the board's professionals and hearing other applications, in the case where there's a D1 use variance, you must provide sufficient proof, what is generally referred to, as you know, as the positive and negative criteria, and we will go through the special reasons that the municipal land use law refers to as the positive criteria. The important element here, I guess, and you'll hear from our planner, is the special reasons which courts have generally recognized to support a D1 use variance include the following: that the use is inherently beneficial, that the site is particularly suited for the use, and that the usage advances one or more purposes of planning as stated in the municipal land use law. The review standards for the D1 use variance are those requested and set forth in the Medici BPR case as to the special reasons to support any variance relief sought in this case. As I stated, the adult daycare is not listed as a permitted use in any zone in Old Bridge. Multiple zoning boards in New Jersey, however, have found that adult daycare to be inherently beneficial use, as the case with a child daycare. As the applicant's professional planner will testify, we believe the proposed use should in fact be considered inherently beneficial use. In the year 2000, the municipal land use law was amended in section 55D4 to clarify the definition of inherently beneficial use, which stated that a use which is universally considered of value to the community because it fundamentally serves the public good and promotes the general welfare. Such uses include, but aren't limited to, a hospital, a school, child care center, a group home, or wind or solar or energy facility or structure. Now, as your professionals indicated in the report, the definition in the statute is not exclusive. Over the years, courts have identified a number of inherently beneficial uses in addition to those defined in the municipal land use law, and these, you probably know, it would include churches, places of worship, community shelters, public housing, public interest housing, such as senior, low income, and housing for homeless, public utility installation, healthcare facilities for the elderly, and schools for developmentally disabled. As our planner will further testify, while the finding that a use is inherently beneficial satisfies your positive criteria for the variance statute, we still must demonstrate the negative criteria under the SECA decision, and there's a four-part balancing test which our planner will go through, and we believe that we will satisfy that test, and I won't go through in detail at this point all of the elements of the SECA test. I guess the important other half of the equation here is, should the board not accept the use as inherently beneficial, we will of course put forth variance proof that the Medici case requires, and I've recited those previously, but the first one is the site particularly suited for the proposed use? Our planner will testify, and you'll hear from our engineer and all of our professionals that we believe that the site is particularly suited and that we will meet all the setback requirements and have sufficient buffer to deal with what's required. And one of the elements of the special reasons is, does the proposal advance the purposes of the municipal land use law? And our planner will go through those reasons and describe them in detail. At the end, we will hopefully prove to your satisfaction that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and that clearly the benefits of the proposal outweigh any detriments. We have several witnesses this evening. One is, of course, our applicant will testify. Amrish will testify as to the overall operations, explain a little bit about his background, and get into some operational issues. Our engineer, Shri Kawala, will testify, and Doug Polynak from Betsy Dolan's firm will handle traffic. Sarin Pathak, our architect, and we have Justin Osiello, who's our professional planner. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you for allowing me to give my opening statement, and hopefully I didn't bore you too much. With that said, I would like to proceed with our first witness unless anyone has any questions.
You haven't lost anything off the fastball. Go with the first witness.
Thank you so much. Amrish?
You come up and sit down, sir.
Sit here.
Mr. Himmelman, he can actually you could actually use the other mic down there. It's portable.
Okay.
That way you don't have to keep.
Perfect.
It is directional, though, so you really have to be
Yeah,
ready.
I see that.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the members of the board. My name is Amrish Bhimani.
We're going to ask
swear
you
you
to
in first. The attorney's going to swear you in.
raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to testify truth in this matter before the board?
I swear.
Thank you, sir. Have a seat. And can we have your name, please, sir?
It's Amrish Bhimani.
Did you spell that, sir?
It's AMRISHBHIMANI.
Thank you, sir.
Amrish, I'm going to refer you to Amrish just for the record because it'll be easier.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So just to take the board through some general questions and information. First, it's my understanding that you are a principal and member of Reliance Adult Daycare, Inc., which is the applicant, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you're also a principal and member of the property owner as well?
That is correct.
Okay, great. All right. So if you could explain to the board in some detail the nature of your business and your operations, obviously trying to describe generally what your services are. Obviously, it's related to senior adults, including personal health, et cetera. And also generally how your participants are transported to the facility and what programs and opportunities there are for those participating. Thank you.
So any adult medical daycare center in New Jersey is licensed by the state of New Jersey Department of Health. And it's a medical facility. We provide primary medical care as well as socialization for elderly. It's a program designed to delay the institutionalization of an elderly person. So people can stay their home and still live a dignified, independent life. The normal day that look like for medical daycare, each of our participants are picked up by our buses on a scheduled time. As soon as they come into the facility, every participant has their care plan designed by their doctors. So the first thing they will do, they will sign in. If we have an order for blood pressure check, sugar check, or a medication administration, they go to the nursing. Then they will have a breakfast. Then there will be activities, group of activities that schedule based on their interest. They can join any activities to boost their cognitive level, socialization, and all. 12 o'clock, 12:30, they will serve lunch. And after that, there will be a free time. And 1:30, they will go home. So the state mandate is 5-hour program. So if each program will be 5 hours. So if it starts in the morning, 9 o'clock, most of our clients will be in by 9:10, and they will go home by 2:10. Any of our participants, they have medical. We take care of all their medical care coordination. We make all their appointments. We will coordinate with their doctors or rehabilitation services or screening services. Plus, we have the trips to farmers market, clothing store, that they will go in our bus and come back in our bus. So all the transportation is 100% by us. Very rarely in an emergency cases, if someone missed the bus, then the family will drop them off if they have family member around. I think that's pretty much how our day look like.
Now, let me just ask you a couple of follow-up questions. With regard to so you said the New Jersey Department of Health has to license your facility, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that, my understanding is that license application cannot be sought until you have local approval for the facility.
That is correct.
Okay. And should the town approve your application, then you would seek a filing for the license with Department of Health, and you've explained it to me. I just want you to confirm that would also include construction plans being approved by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
All plans are, once we have the approval, we'll design the architectural engineering plan and we'll go to the DCA. DCA will review it, send it back to us with their seal, goes to the town. Town will review it, and then we'll file for a permit.
Very good. Now, some of the board members and/or the staff and the public may be familiar with your existing business here in Oak Ridge. Why don't you just give us a little brief background on that, and why you're looking to relocate should the application be favorably approved?
So we are in this daycare Always at Home. They were located in 8 Jocama Boulevard. It was 8 Jocama, Jocama. It's been operating since 2001. That's when it first opened. We took over in July 27, 2012. Currently, we serve about 140 members, participants, in 2 shifts. And we've been in the business for 13 years. We have 4 adult daycare centers in New Jersey. One in Sayreville, one in Old Bridge, one in Parsippany, and one in Wall Township. And we serve about, on an average, 400 participants a day, combining all of our facilities.
So as I've explained to the board, is that you would like to obviously move into a
yes.
location here, and if you could explain why.
Our challenge is the building is designed in 2001. It was expanded, I think, in 2007 or 8. So the technology has evolved a lot. The level of care, the care providing techniques, the environment, aesthetics has changed a lot during this many years. And all the new facilities that are opening are bigger, better laid out, has more room for, like I'll give you an example, there is no a separate game room or a computer or a library in our facility, but the new building could have that with a bigger space. So they can, enjoy freely and do more and spend their time effectively for the purpose of their care.
Now, the hours of operation that you currently have at Always at Home, is it similar to what you were proposing?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And the drop-off, is it pretty much the same as it will be in this application?
Yes, in the state of New Jersey, the transportation has to be provided. It's a regulation unless participant choose or the family member choose to pick up or drop them off. Otherwise, it's 100% pick up and drop off by our buses.
Very good. Now, let's talk a little bit about, obviously, we're going to have our architect testify, but I understand you've given thought as to safety and security for the building. So if you could discuss some of your operational issues and how you plan on addressing safety and security. please.
So considering the current situations, all facilities normally in a previous a few years we've been conducting the fire drill is mandatory, a disaster drill we conduct, and we have in-services and active shooter drill training and everything. So considering the current scenario and the time, we're planning to put high-tech system alarm like access door that it would not be. Right now we have an open door, anyone can walk in, go through the reception. We're planning to change it in this new design. We'll have surveillance cameras, we'll have a secure door with the access card or buzz-in entry to prevent anything bad happen to our clients or for the safety and security of our participants and the staff member.
And so you will have, as you've explained it, you'll have secured access.
Yes.
So if a visitor came, they would have to be somehow allowed access into the building?
And that will be buzzed in or had to announce so they cannot get in. Even from the inside, because when this program started, and it is common now for a new facility to have locked doors because the demographic we see now with more and more participants with memory loss, they are at wonder risk also. So that prevents, just for their safety also, it would only be open or locked with the buzzed-in or a PIN number, except for on fire or any other emergencies.
Fair enough. Now, I know in the staff's report they wanted us to discuss a little bit about deliveries made at the property, the frequency, and what type of vehicles would be required for.
So we got a very little delivery activities. Once a week we get our milk and eggs or fruits supply. Then we have once a month probably, or maybe twice a month sometime we get our paper goods. And the catering service, we don't cook anything. We don't intend to cook anything at this facility either. It's just a warm-up kitchen. So all the catering they deliver in a minivan. And all the DME medical goods or anything that's delivered in a small vans. There is never a big truck. The biggest we have seen is a box truck. It's not a trailer, even for the milk deliveries.
Now, your current operation, Always Home, what, if you could give the board a sense, what percentage, if I could ask you, are from the Old Bridge area, your participants?
I think almost over 60% are from the Old Bridge area.
60?
60, please.
And has that, in your estimation, has that been increasing over time?
And that will increase after this COVID. And now everyone, even the healthcare provider, insurance companies, everyone sees the value in socialization. When you're isolated, it creates a chain of diseases and it reduces your lifestyle to a very low level. So they're pushing, we never seen it before after COVID. Now they're proactively pushing a client or referring a client to a medical daycare facility because this is the only program. Adult daycare is the only program in New Jersey that can give them a true care while staying at home. There is you don't belong to nursing home for a smaller at-home services that you can get into a medical daycare.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there anything you'd like to add or another topic you'd like to cover, or you think you've gone over all the issues?
I've gone over everything. I think this is, in my opinion, in my experience, I see there will be more and more these kind of facilities will be around, and no matter I have visited many nursing home or assisted living, no matter whether it's a 7-star facility, I always ask a question when I see a participant whether they like it there. And nothing beats your own home so far. So I think this is a good program. It gives a person a reason to get up and get ready and get dressed. When you have no reason to get up, everything dies. So I think it's a good program. Not only my program, any adult daycare program is a good program for a healthy society.
Well, I guess the name that you chose was sort of
Yes.
Was sort of emblematic of that, correct?
Yes, so our name is Always at Home, and it feels like that, always. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any direct further questions of the applicant, but you or the board members or staff might.
I'm going to ask them. That's a great name. I like that.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And for the first time, I can't call her Ms. O'Kane, so it's Ms. Sarmad.
I have a few questions, yes.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. And you got my name pronounced.
Did I get it right?
You got it pronounced correctly.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. I just had a question related to the shifts. I think you gave like a pretty good overview of like the well, like 9 to 2. Can you just describe what if the shifts change between then, or if there's a shift that comes thereafter, 2 o'clock?
And so what happens is our buses will start picking up people around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they will bring them at 1:45 or 2. And there are 2 entrances. So right now, our current facility, and the same is the new facility. So when they bring it in, the picked up will be from a different door, so they don't cross each other many times unless they want to see their friends and in a second shift and say hi. But that's how the system. That's what the system we follow.
Okay, and then that 1:45 or 2 o'clock starting shift will run till approximately what time?
6:45 to 7.
And then, how do participants or their families typically tour the facility, or do they come visit before they sign up?
Every visit is a scheduled visit. Normally, so far we have seen, I haven't have anyone walked in my 12 years. They call, they look on a Google or from directory order referral. They call, they make an appointment, and then they can schedule a tour.
Okay, and then I'm assuming there's some sort of protocol set up for them to come into the site, park, and then come through the front entrance? Okay.
So normally we prefer when there is not a lot of activities happening. So let's say if we have a trip scheduled to a farmer's market, 50% of our client will go to farmer's market. That's when we schedule the trip visiting hours, so they get more free. Our staff is available to them for any questions or anything. If I schedule them on a lunchtime, then it's so busy, the staffs are busy, they will not have a full attention. So that's how we schedule the tours, the slowest time.
Thank you. And then, as I believe the application indicated that there were some limited weekend hours, and can you describe what those would be related to?
So if there is a holiday, let's say a Thanksgiving party. So what happens is a lot of time we would like to combine 2 shifts so we can enjoy an event together. Not everyone comes. If I have 120, even if I combine, they probably at the best there will be 100 people or 90 people at the most. So some holidays that we have party or special event, like it's our anniversary party. So we cannot do 2 events, one for the first and one for the second, so that we schedule it on Saturday, or that way we can enjoy everybody together.
Okay, and do those events run, with the same typical transportation, pick up, drop off?
Yes.
And our families or any of their?
Mostly, we don't invite families because of the limitation of our staffs and capability. And a lot of time, The only time family visits if they want to surprise a participant with their birthday or something. But big events, we never invite them.
Okay. And then, can you just, for the record, just talk about number of employees typical for each shift and when they change shifts?
The number of employees, mostly in the first shift, if statistically speaking, the first shift will have the most number of participants. The second shift is almost half the first shift. So there are not going to be that many people in a second shift. People prefer to come in the morning shift. So the staffing ratio from state of New Jersey is 10-1. So right now I have 140 enrolled in my facility, but we have about 110 on a regular day. Pre-COVID, right now it's not the same. And our staffing is, in the morning we have just 3 extra part-time, 3 part-time, and 1 full-time. That those people do not work till the evening. So if I see currently my staffing is about 19 staff members. Out of 19, 3 of them are part-time.
Okay. So does staffing fluctuate with enrollment?
Yes,
program?
yes.
Okay. And can you just describe like typical permanent staff, so like a desk person or a doctor?
Okay. So every medical daycare center, they have to have an administrator. They have to have a social worker, a licensed social worker. They have to have registered nurse, and they have to have an activity director or an activity consultant. So what happens is the social worker hour is 30 half an hour per client per week. So if I have 100 clients, my social worker will have 50 hours. Same with the nurse. So nurse is, you need 1 registered nurse for 40 clients. And if you go over 60, then you need another 1. So then 1 become a DON, then there is another RN. And if you have 100, it's not required, but to serve to care for our participants better, we will have another extra LPN or an RN.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fire Marshal, do you have anything for the applicant? No? Mr. Dasty?
The questions that I had were just covered in terms of employees.
I'll ask the panel to my left. Go ahead, Mr. Scogno.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree that all adults should be out doing something instead of being home.
Thank you.
Your employees, they're paid employees or
Yes.
volunteers?
They're paid employees.
So how does a participant, how do they pay you? Through Medicare?
The managed care organization, so their insurance are paying us.
Medicare and their
Medicaid,
supplements and
yes,
things like that?
yes.
So how are you different than the senior center, which we have an award-winning senior center here? And I can't believe 60% of Old Bridge is going to you.
The reason is because the senior center, they don't have a medical program. They have a social program. So you don't have an RN, you do not coordinate their care. So if you look at medical daycare, it has the same, the documentation is the same as a nursing home. So each participant have their charts. They will have their history and physical, their demographic, their court status, their power of attorneys, their care plans, their blood pressures, their everything, dietary, their activity assessments.
And you indicated that you would assist them making appointments with the
Yes.
doctor. Is that a doctor that you choose?
No, everyone has their own doctors.
So their doctor,
Their
you would
doctors,
select
yes.
and help them
Yes,
make an appointment with
yes.
them. Now, is this just subject to Old Bridge, or how far out are you going?
There is no limit. There is the limit from state of New Jersey is the travel time. The travel time cannot be more than 2 hours. So I can pick up anyone within a 1 hour radius. But what happens is every town has an adult daycare. So people normally they don't go more than 35, 40 minutes. And what happens is with the buses, even if you have a daycare center 5 miles down your road, they will pick up 12, 13 other people. So it will take at least 35 to 40 minutes anyway.
So if a person wanted to go home,
Yes.
they would have to wait for
Yes.
the group to go in that area.
They will have to wait. Normally, in that situation, if somebody wants to go home, our nurse or social worker will intervene, ask what is the reason. We reach out to the family. If the reason is, if the family says, or their emergency contact to drop them home, then we can drop them home. But we cannot bill them for that day if they don't do 5 hours.
Would it be wrong of me to ask you, what is the cost?
The cost right now is very different what it looks like. The insurance company right now, they're paying $86.10 per participants per day.
Per day?
Which, yes, which is far lower than what is paid to home care agencies or home health aid by doing almost only 20% of what we do.
And your breakfast is basically what? What is basic breakfast?
The breakfast?
Yeah.
So all the meals are designed with the guideline from the state of New Jersey. They have different component, protein, multigrain, milk, eggs, fruits, and vegetables. And it is designed in a 2 weeks cycle. So you cannot repeat the same thing every day or every week. So, and every facility is surveyed by state of New Jersey licensing surveyor. It's an unannounced survey. So, and then if there is if something wrong, you will get a deficiency. Or even the lunch is also designed by a component. So you have a starch, you have protein, you have greens, vegetable,
Yeah.
and everything else.
I imagine most of the elderly would like to get there for breakfast and lunch.
Yes, yes.
And the activities, what kind of activities you have?
So we have the most favorable, everybody loves it, and there are most people that come just for one, and that is bingo.
Bingo.
You know, bingo is the favorite activity. Plus we have music, we have dance, you know, they play games, table games, cards, singing, painting, depends on their interest. We have a lot of magazines subscribed. We don't want them to do watch TV at all, because
And,
they can do it at home.
What if I don't come that day, next day? I get
If you
charged?
don't, no. You can, because every participant who come in, they need to sign. So if you don't come, you can sign. So we cannot build them.
You don't build them?
Yes.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Scholler?
I was curious, for your first ship, your new location, you plan to have how many seniors?
It is licensed for 200.
200.
Yes. It is very unlikely that anyone will reach 200. Nobody in New Jersey, in my opinion.
But right now, you're telling me you have 140 members
And
arrested.
it's between two ships.
Okay, but it's still 140 between the two ships.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So if a typical shift, it looks like 75, 80 in the morning, and on some days 90, and the rest of it in the second shift.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Stoner?
I have a few questions for you. What's the average of seniors that you have? What's the average seniors that you have in the building at one particular time? The average.
On an average, pre-COVID, the morning shift will be 65, 70, and the afternoon shift will be 40, 45.
You also mentioned the fact, too, that you keep the doors locked, right?
And no, this facility, not the current one. The current one is open door. It's an old facility.
Okay. But the new one?
Yes.
Is the reason why you said because to prevent the seniors from leaving?
Yes, yes.
So the doors are locked all
Yes,
the time?
they will only go out with a supervision. So we have aid, activity aid, or a nursing aid. If they want to take a walk, it has to be supervised, because some we have seen increasing in a number of seniors with a memory loss that not used to be 10 years ago. Now there are more. If I see, we hadn't had anyone with a memory loss or a wonder risk. So now we have 2 persons. So it has to be always, and we are a restraint-free facility. We do not put an alarm or anything when somebody gets up from the chair.
So if I show up at the facility, I can't get in because the door's locked, right?
Yes. In a new facility, current facility, yes, yes.
I'm just concerned about safety issues.
Uh-huh.
So can you just walk me through that? The fact that the doors are locked in case of an emergency? I guess only the people who works there can open up doors, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And, there is always a kill switch. When you press it in an emergency, the door will open anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stoner? The transportation, is that supplied by the state, or is that you personally, the senior daycare center itself provides that?
Yes, the senior daycare centers
So they're
themselves.
workers, the drivers are also workers?
Yes,
For
yes,
you?
yes.
And are they under security by the state, or are they licensed through the state with a background check?
And so that's even if a volunteer, if I had to take a volunteer, all the staff member has gone, it's a state requirement to do a criminal background check. Right now it's a vaccine mandate. Their TB testing, all those history and physical background check, and they're in service regularly on safety procedures and policy and procedures.
Thank you. Ms. Tarsavardi?
Mm-hmm. We've been hacked by somebody and it can't release. When I call the Google, they say that my email address does not belong to them. I have a proof of it. But if you search Always at Home, then it will show up.
I had the same issue.
Reliance Adult Daycare, it's a parent company. Always at Home, it's a business name. It's a trade name. So if you search it at Always at Home, it will show up everything. Today, we had 37. We had only one shift. Right now, we are rotating due to the COVID, so not everyone comes every day. We have divided in a group based on their preference till June 30th. After June 30th, from July 1st, we are open. We can open for all 5 days and bring everyone in.
Thank you, Mr. Manny. Another
Thank
witness?
you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Amherst, thank you. You can be
We
excused.
appreciate,
very much.
we appreciate your
Thank you very much.
testimony.
Pleasure.
Don't go anywhere. Sri?
You can leave the mic.
Yes.
You can leave it on the table.
Amherst, you can leave it. Mr. Chairman, our next witness is our professional engineer, and Sri Kadawala, who will be, we'd have to have him sworn in and qualified as our civil engineer expert.
Chair, can you raise your right hand? Swear to testify truthfully. I do. Srinath J. Kodawala, S-H-R-I-N-A-T-H. Last name is K-O-T-D-A-W-A-L-A. I live at 54 Oakland Mills Road, Manalapan, New Jersey. Oakland Mills Road, Manalapan, New Jersey.
You can be seated, sir. His credentials, Mr. Hemmel?
I
He
will
can
do
sit.
that, sure. Sri, if you would just give a brief background of your CV, your educational background, and your expertise and licenses that you hold, so we can qualify you as your civil engineer for this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a PhD in civil engineering in 1994 from Kansas State University. And since 1995, I've been working in as a land use engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I obtained my professional engineering license in 1998. I have been in front of several boards, as well as the Old Bridge Township Board, at least more than five of.
Thank you very much. Well, you certainly put in the time with the PhD. We certainly accept his credentials.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sri, before we get into any of your discussion on the plans, have you brought any exhibits with you tonight that we would have to mark initially that were not otherwise submitted with the application? If we could just get that house.
That's correct. I just have a little color rendering of the site.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Dasty, I guess we would want to have that marked as A1.
This exhibit, now we're going to call it A1, which is just our land use plan, which is a sheet number 2 on my site plan. And this is sheet number 2, just we made some just colors. Like
It's a directional mic, so you're going to have to
Yes.
hold it this way. That, yep.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And is there a date?
It's today's date for the presentation. So it's June 2nd.
Okay, Shri, if you would do us and take the board and professionals and the public through the site plan application and plan. I understand that you have prepared the preliminary and final site plan with various sheets that have been submitted, and I would ask you to please walk us through the application, detailing all the elements of the site plan, including, certainly but not limited to, the site layout, addressing the various components, including landscaping, buffers, proposed improvements, and typically the things that you would address in your site plan testimony. And then, of course, I think what we will also do is, which would be helpful, is if you're going to refer to any comments that the board's professionals have addressed in their memorandum, I would just ask you to kind of refer to that, and for the board's edification and staff, just reference the page also so we can follow that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this is kind of a unique shaped site, but we are, if you know Route 18 and Marlborough Road, Route 18 and Marlborough Road, just we are at the corner. Marlborough Road is, if you just pass like a Walmart on Route 18, just go further like west, and you reach towards Marlborough Road. This site is accessible from both sides on Route 18 as well as the Marlborough Road. And being a shape as a triangle, we had some difficulties to put the building and also trying to see that we have neighbors next to us. So all our design was revolving around buffer, keeping between residential zone, keeping the like Route 18 access, as well as the triangle shape. So those three things were kind of we were challenged to design something which can fit in with all the township requirements for land use. And I'll just briefly explain. The site is roughly about 70,200 square feet. We have some discrepancy. I have a review later from township where they have an area 3,000 square feet less because there was a indication of right-of-way dedication in last approval in 2007. So we will resolve with the township review engineer in that matter. But at this moment, based on our survey, it's a 70,000 square feet. And we have developed this site using an access, two-way access coming from Route 18 as well as from the Marlborough Road. As you can see from this exhibit, we have a straight parking lot, one-sided parking lot, and a building. All the building is trying to be fit within the setback requirements, front setback, side setback, and rear setback. We have a double setbacks because of two roads, Route 18 as well as the Marlborough Road. And site has also some constraint is if we look at the map, we have some wetlands, but they are classified last time on a sheet number 2, we'll see the wetlands. And they were classified as an isolated wetland. It means it's ordinary resource value wetlands, which can be filled with the general permit number 6 under the wetlands rules. So we don't anticipate any problem when we go back to DEP and apply for a GP number 6. Currently, DEP is reviewing our LOI map, and we are anticipating approval any day. Tina Wolf is a project manager, and she has visited the site. She wanted minor changes, which my office did, and we are expecting LOI in coming month.
And, Sri, it's my understanding that there was an LOI that had been previously approved.
That's,
with the
yes.
prior application, correct?
It was 2004, so those permits are expired long back, and henceforth we have to go back and reapplied. We did, and we are waiting for an approval. Once that approval comes in, we will be applying for GP number 6, which allows us to fill the wetlands, because we will be disturbing. The reason for our disturbance to the wetland is putting a building as well as providing a screening between residential use and a non-residential use. So I would not like to remove the existing trees, but to provide like an all-year screening, we are going to remove the trees and replace with evergreens. So that was our intention of disturbing half of the wetlands. Half of the wetlands are needed for our own project. So that is how this project is designed. It's a single-story building, but the architect has about, I talked to architect, it's about 20 feet high building because of the roof, parapet, and everything. It's going to be 20 feet high, single-story building. It's not overwhelming, but it'll fit in. And if you look at our landscaping plan, it's all around. We have trees, like in the front and the back, and actually more trees than I can fit in. There's definitely, we're going to have some shortage of trees to be planted under the ordinance. But that I'll talk to township tree expert, and we'll sit with them and figure it out that either it's a financial compensation or a waiver. So that we will defer it to after our meeting with them to decide what's the compensation. Because the site cannot fit more trees than what we have shown. There are some comments about type of trees we chose. That is some trees which we will comply with it, whatever the township has required and suggested in their comment later. Anything else is about the site plan. More we have is a stormwater system, which is underground design. I have many comments as a review comments because the stormwater system requires us to make many assumptions. It's a more rationalized assumption, so each engineer has a different way to look at it. There are some is my mistake, some is like a general, our variation in the assumptions. So my office is ready to make those changes, but that will not alter any of the plan which you see up here. It will be all this underground system. And by law, we are required to now lately put, we call it a TSS device, or total suspended solids. It's kind of brighter filter at home. Similar filter which filters all the oil spillage from a car, which needs to be.
Shri, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Speak into the mic. I could barely hear you.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Shri, if I could just interrupt you. So, just in referring to Nicole and Katie's memo, I guess, on page 17, just for the board's edification, I think there are just a variety of stormwater comments, which you said you have reviewed. Some of the comments you believe are valid, and some you want to meet with staff. But is there anything in any of those comments that you believe the applicant could not comply with, or at least you couldn't resolve with staff after reviewing those details? Should the board favorably approve the application?
Correct. We will be satisfying all the comments there.
Okay.
As well as we are expecting a new rules coming in from June 8th. So my design is going to be undersized based on a new rule, and we will not have a construction permit. So I'm anticipating that our size of the underground system will be increased by a couple of more pipes. So that will be a change in our design, but it won't make any land use change, or it won't change anything related to the parking, access, building, or the elevations of the property.
And that's my understanding with the new stormwater regulations that
Yes.
DEP is promulgating.
Yeah, it's new to me. Just last week it came out in emergency ordinance. So we are going through it. We are waiting for how it's going to shape up. But most probably we will be designing it at larger size of system than now what we have.
Okay, very good. Sorry.
As far as the lighting goes, we have tried to keep the pole height like a little lower so the light doesn't spillage, because usually the engineer try to put least amount of poles so we can have like larger coverage. It's like more of like a cone. So our lighting, my lighting is at a couple of spots at the entrance, is not meeting township ordinance, but we will revise the plan and make it sure that we comply with the required like a lighting intensity. And we will have a back shield, particularly in this area, so neighbor is is not going to see the negative impact when the lights are on in the evening. Only up to like 6:30 they have operational facility, or 7. So in the winter time, we see that neighbors might see some light, but we have enough provisions made here which will block light spillage on a neighborhood or on a Marlboro Road as well as on Route 18. So lighting will comply, landscaping. We have missed one thing is about the locating all the trees on the site, because the site is wooded. And so we need to do that calculation, and I'll be, same as I told you before, we will be waiting on calculating what's the cost of compensation if we cannot plant enough trees on the site.
Sri, if I could just interrupt, I'm sorry. So with regard to the lighting, I think staff indicated that, talked about the minimum average foot candle, and then they had some specific comments on page 22 of their memorandum. So with regard to the lighting aspects, you've indicated that you're going to address those comments, particularly with regard to spillage. And also, I see in comment, I think it's 6B, staff indicate at intersections, the minimum required foot candle, 2, and you're going to revise those plans?
Yes.
Address those, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that would also include clarifying the plans with regard to the, I guess, the planting of trees and the replacement of those trees also to enhance the wooded area?
Yes.
All right, so we'll address that. That's comment, I think it's 6D.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Pleasure.
So otherwise, the parking required is 24 based on the township ordinance. We are providing 37, but after talking with the fire chief, because he had a comment later, we have decided to provide some parking spaces for larger vehicles. My client told me that he has one vehicle. It's going to be only one vehicle, which is a larger size than a normal van. So, but our plan is going to revise, and 3 spaces will be dedicated where the size will be about 12 feet wide by like 24 feet long instead of 9 by 18. So 3, and he's expecting only 1. They used to have more buses like that, but they have decided to go with a smaller. So basically, we'll have enough parking spaces on the site. We have additional parking spaces than required. So I don't see any problem, anything with the parking. As far as the fire chief's letter, he had some comments, and we created a sketch showing him where the fire hydrant will go, where will be a Stars connection, as well as the FDC connections, which our plan was not showing. Now I have created a concept map, emailed it to him, and I just talked to him. This is how we can comply with his requirements. So that safety issue is covered by making those changes.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Sri. Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Mr. Hart did issue a memorandum dated May 25th, and as Sri has indicated, he did speak. I believe that they have communicated. A concept plan was forwarded to Mr. Hart to address the comments, particularly with regard to the placement of the fire hydrant, the fire lane striping, the turning movements of the fire vehicle. So we will work with Mr. Hart to his satisfaction to address those comments.
Okay, we'll probably hear from him tonight. And as far as the tree issue, Mr. Lavallo is not present, but
Understood.
you've already put on the record you're going to work that out.
Right, fair enough.
We'll hear from Mr. Hart after he finishes.
Very good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And the main thing issue is here is about 0.19 FAR is allowed, so 19%, and we are at like 22% as per the township review, and our calculation is about 0.20, which we have to resolve through our surveying right-of-way calculation, area calculation. But that is where we are seeking like a bigger variance other than a small design waivers are all around for our parking spaces and distance from Route 18 to our parking spaces. There are some engineering revisions required for certain turning radiuses, which we will be able to all do it. And
I'm sorry, Sri, if I could just ask you, so the staff has indicated that a variance is required for maximum floor area ratio.
Yes.
But I think you've indicated that you need to discuss that issue with the staff, correct?
That's correct. their calculation shows our site is 3,000 square feet, roughly smaller than our submitted survey, because the previous approval, they were dedicating right-of-way. And that, after dedicating right-of-way, the area was, which the township review has done. So I need to do is I need to talk to my surveyor and confirm it, which is the right area. Because I'm sure he has issued a map, he's NJPLS, but still, because there is an old map in the township records, so we will confirm it and come up with this number instead of, like, either whether we are asking for variance of like from 19 to 22, so roughly 20% more than required, or 5% more than required.
Correct.
FAR.
Mr. Dasty, so that's significant in the sense that, again, I think Nicole would have to weigh in on that also, but it's insignificant because if he has to talk to a surveyor to review that
Sure.
issue, but if it's more than 20%, then you're into a situation where you're a D4 variance, and that's what staff has highlighted. Nicole, you highlighted that in your memorandum, so, and Katie also. So I don't know that, again, we're just addressing that there is an issue there, and I think we just need to sort of address it and resolve that.
Well, but that's going to be the issue. I guess we're going to address it between now and the next meeting, I suppose. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a few things going on. The D4 was flagged even before any of the property area was, questioned. I think they're over regardless. Right now, if the property is actually at the 70,000, it's still 0.202, which is over the 0.19 that's allowed in the R15. There was a few issues going on, I think, that were indicated in the review memo, particularly under the engineering comments. One with the extension off of the property that goes across Marlborough Road, which needs to be that needs to be investigated with title, because it's not shown on the tax maps for the township, and even the survey didn't show reference to that. So that just needs to be cleared up, because that could also that could impact the total lot area and then impact the FAR as a result. And then additionally, if right-of-way is dedicated, I know that it was indicated on the previous approval. I don't know if it was ever followed through with. I don't know if the deed shows that.
Mr. Chairman, board members, what Sri is talking about, and Sri, take one step over. The darker green area that he points to right on top, that rectangular area that crosses Marlborough Road, when we look at the application, the prior application for the medical use building that was approved in around 2006, that the board at the time and the engineer at the time had recommended that Marlborough Road have a right-of-way dedication. That crossover on Marlborough Road doesn't exist. In fact, my office just did a search on Middlesex County Clerk's Office website and found the deed where sort of it bifurcates that little leg that comes across Marlborough. So I believe that that situation is not true, and the previous survey plan is correct. That plan, when you take into consideration, there's a slight utility easement on that side that goes a little bit into Marlborough Road, but definitely doesn't cross it. It was something like 67,000 square feet total for the area. And then you subtract the 3,000 square feet, because now we're going to ask them and this applicant to dedicate right-of-way on Marlborough Road. So that's in the memo, and it's not suggested. It's there. And so then there is going to be a greater FAR. The only difference is that little leg is probably about 1,000 square feet, but I differ on that.
It wouldn't matter, in other words.
Wouldn't matter. You're still way over.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to talk to our surveyor to check the deeds and title and see that what's the corrected square feet of the lot.
But what's funny is, Sri, when I look at the survey base map that you provide as your base map, that right-of-way dedication line is there. It's just a lighter shade. So to me, it's like the existing, I'm going to show it to you when you come meet with me in my office. The existing base mapping appears to me to be very, very similar to that which was given to us in that 2006 iteration. So when I see that line, and so again, the dedication, the right-of-way dedication comes about because Veronica Court, when that developer had come, we had made them come in and give us a right-of-way dedication for Marlborough Road. It ties into that right-of-way, and then it comes down Marlborough Road and tapers to the existing as you get closer to the Route 18 and NJDOT jurisdiction. So again, I will share with you the deed that I found on Middlesex County website. I mean, obviously, we found this at the nth hour today, and that's why we were scrambling to get you the memo in time. And so with that said, we could certainly have discussions.
So basically, we will be looking for variance. It's just the intensity of variance will change based on the exact square feet of comes out from survey and a title search.
So, Nicole, just so I understand, so you think the survey that was done in 2006 is probably accurate and matches the title records? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes. And the right-of-way dedication line, that's why it's so confusing to me, because when I look at, and I'm trying to pull out a map that shows the existing conditions. Okay, when I look at your sheet 3 of 7, which is the grading and utility plan, if you look at the residential neighborhood, there's a word, the house on lot number 14. There's a monument, it says monument found. That is the end of the right-of-way dedication that was given to us by the developers of Veronica Court. Then you see a light shaded line that just traverses and it bisects all these contours, and then it ends at the property line that's at the southerly limit. That one, if you look at the survey dedication that was part of that application 11806, that application in 2006, that is exactly the right-of-way dedication line. So the surveyor, to me, in this iteration, used, and it's on the survey plan, used that prior map to create his existing survey map.
Usually, like my survey, Dave Aguano, he won't miss it, but I'll definitely see that. He checks it out, and then I'll come and meet with you after the survey is upgraded or verified.
Yes.
So it will change our intensity of FAR variance request.
Yes, and that's why we calculated it. Katie goes through a nice job of putting everything in there so that we could tell you what we think it is, not what's on your plans, right?
Correct. Definitely. So we'll do our homework, come back to you guys and just explain this is what the new survey is. And if this is right, then we stay with whatever we have done. If it's wrong, then we will change it. So.
Sri, are you finished with your direct testimony?
Yes.
Are you finished with them? You're not finished with them yet.
Well, I thought it might.
I just wanted to see if you wanted to let them bounce back other than what we just
all right.
threw around there.
I thought it might be helpful just to go through, since it's probable, Mr. Chairman, that we're obviously not going to get through tonight, number one. Number two, it might be helpful as we continue to meet with staff, if we could just go through a few issues in Nicole's memo.
That's what I was hoping you would do.
Yeah, I was reading the tea leaves. Sri, just a couple things. So just starting on page 5 of Nicole and Katie's memo, which is the zoning requirements. So we touched on the FAR, but I presume, and yes, Katie did a very good job summarizing all this. I presume that other than the FAR issue, are we in concurrence with the variances that are identified and the waivers also?
That's
which
correct.
Continue? Okay. All right. With regard to the, I guess, the comments related to the buffer, which is under the Old Bridge Ordinance 250-54C, we do request a variance for that. If you could just give a brief description of that so the board understands a little more in depth what that is, and just so also Katie and Nicole may want to comment on that also.
It's basically the buffer from a highway. Our parking lot is very close to the property line. We are not able to provide enough buffers, so we are asking for a kind of waivers and variances. So it's all about related to this parking lot. You're asking, then there are a few small buffers about having a trash area very close to the front setback line. So we will be making those changes. But main thing is our parking lot will not change, and because of that, it's only place I can put a parking spaces. So that we are asking variance because of the way the shape of the site is. We have enough area available, and we have a residential neighborhood, so that 50 feet we cannot touch it. So because of that reason, my envelope of having access and ingress and egress is very limited. That's the reason we are asking for variances. It's not out of choice, but because out of shape of the property, we are asking for those variances and waivers.
And I presume, and maybe you could just clarify this, but in the prior approval for the medical office building, there would have been a similar buffer variance requested?
Actually, the prior approval had a building in the front setback. We took it out. Here is our front setback line. The previous building was going there, actually, as well as they were putting a detention pond within the 50 feet of residential zone. So we took it out. Absolutely, there is nothing, no activity in that area. So from that previous approval, we have made changes which is kind of less intrusive into the setback lines as well as into the neighborhood impact.
And Mr. Chairman, you may not recall that, but that was a discussion we had back then. But I think Shree's indicating that we looked at that prior approval and tried to improve. It's still a variance, but tried to move the improvements out of there and put the building out of the setback. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention because to me that's a significant adjustment, if you will, from the prior approval.
It is.
Yeah.
And also, it's a single-story building versus a two-story building. So visibility to the neighbors is pretty much like kind of like a very minute now. If neighborhood sits in his bedroom and look at the site, they may not see the building, they will see the trees. So,
Shree, just to move on to a couple other topics. On page 12, Nicole and Katie also discussed the refuse enclosure, and I know we had some discussions about that. Can you just sort of describe what staff is indicating here and how we plan to address that?
yeah, typically there are two things. One is we have a refuse enclosure in front entrance, which usually no one likes it. To see, even myself, I was trying to avoid it, but because of the shape is such, I need to have a truck coming in, taking the ton, and lifting the trash. And that was the only area we found that easily accessible. We don't have any other room where I can just drive a truck in and lift the trash container. So we are definitely going to change this location based on the comments. I'm trying to figure it out. We might lose a couple of parking spaces because we have 10 extra. And move this thing out, as well as we need a wooded buffer. So screening so people don't see it as like a trash area. So
I think the fire marshal mentioned it too, right?
yes.
Correct.
So we'll make those changes as suggested. I don't see any difficulty in achieving that goal.
You also discussed the signage also.
Yeah, we have proposed the two signs, two ground-mounted signs, one at the entrance and one at the exit towards Route 18. So we are asking for a variance, as well as there is a wall-mounted signs. There are two signs, 50 feet, square feet area. So that architect will discuss about its height is 18 is allowed. We will be keeping below 18. And 50 square feet is including as a box. And technically, they are putting only the letters here. So, but if you look at the...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, all four ends, it will be 50 square feet.
Now, I think one of the signs actually is in the DOT right-of-way, correct?
No, this was previously approved sign.
Right.
So that traffic engineer will know whether we can keep it or we have to remove it.
Fair enough.
Because I'm not aware of it. How would DOT will allow us to put a private sign on? But we have our own sign up inside of our property.
Right. So
Most probably it won't be visible when you drive on Route 18. You will never see it because of the wooded buffer in between. But still, it needs a little help.
So we're not proposing any signage within the DOT right-of-way? Is that what you're...
That sign, traffic engineer will talk whether we can have it or not. Owner would like to have it.
Fair enough. That was my point. I understand, because that was one...
Owner wants it, but whether we can get it or not, that will be depend on the permit. Major access permit will allow us or no.
Right, and Doug will testify on that.
Yes.
Great, all right. So those are the signage. You've addressed the lighting. We've talked about the stormwater. You've talked about the survey discrepancy with regard to the FAR. Obviously, there's stormwater comments, which you're going to address in detail. Are there any other items you would like to review which have been highlighted or addressed in staff's report, or anything else you'd like to add before the board or professionals can have any questions for you?
I don't have any other things to say. Most of the stuff is covered, but if something is missing or something you see it's very negative about our design, if someone can point it out, definitely we would like to get the suggestion and revise it because we have opportunity and a time to do it.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further direct questions of our engineer, but you or the board or staff might.
Thank you, Mr. Hillman. Nicole?
I heard, Sri, before you were talking about the area that's adjacent to the homes that back up, or that front Veronica Court, right? That green area, when I look at your plans and I see the existing wood line, I see that on your survey plan, but that's not, the existing wood line doesn't appear on your site plan. And so what I want to see is how you're differing from, what is that wooded line? Because you're saying, what I think I heard is that you were keeping those trees, you were keeping that naturally wooded area.
Whole site is wooded.
Uh-huh.
So we have a note there saying the whole entire site is wooded. So we will be removing the woods completely.
Every tree.
Because the way this is located and the grading and everything, I don't have any room to preserve any of the natural trees other than a few trees along Route 18 is being preserved on my plan.
Okay, but when I see your grading plan, I see that your limited disturbance maybe goes halfway into that area. Yes.
Because of the grading, because the building is a little high. The site drops from one end to the other end.
Right, so keep the mature trees along that property line.
Keep them, then in the winter you will see the whole building.
Okay, you want to plant evergreens.
My thinking, and we talked to the owner and I talked to my landscape architect, Steve, and we decided either we plant evergreen in between and try to screen it, or we remove it and put a new trees. We have two choices to do here. So whatever, if you feel what.
I mean, maybe you intersperse them, and I mean, I'll definitely defer to our conservation officer on, what's the requirement, and you probably see when that dollar amount comes that you're going to be saving some trees. So I think there was, I guess you kind of went through it rather quickly, but I get that unless there's something specific, you are going to comply with everything. The only thing I want to bring to the board's attention is, I didn't realize at the time when we were reviewing the application that I didn't send the application to a traffic consultant. Now, I had a conversation with Brian Proska, which you've seen before in front of this board, who we use oftentimes as a traffic expert and as our traffic consultant. I talked to him about this application earlier today, and we reviewed the traffic report. It was only 3 pages. So the comments in here that are related to traffic and circulation, I feel confident that we've covered it. And we do agree with the assessment in the report as far as really what the impacts would be. It's not going to be a trip generator based on the testimony that was provided by the owner. I mean, in the report itself, I shouldn't say it now, not for Sri, right? I should save it. I'm going to save it.
And Nicole, I don't mean to interrupt, but obviously we have our traffic engineer. The reason
Yes.
I didn't go through your comments was because Doug's going to testify on that.
Okay, then I'm going to skip that for now. Stormwater.
Can I just get back to the landscaping?
Yes.
I think you've raised a very good point. So obviously, Shari's prepared a landscaping plan. I guess my question is, when he meets with you to discuss the FAR and the other related issues, would it be helpful to kind of go through in a little more detail?
Yeah, I think
the
so.
landscaping?
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
I did look at that. I think the intent is to provide more mature screening sooner rather than later, and that's why, because right now, because I've been to that site, and a lot of those trees are not that mature, or may not even be healthy, actually, I don't know. But in any event, I think it would be helpful if we could meet with you to kind of go over that landscaping plan. a
Yeah,
little
and
more
I know
closely.
that in one of Katie's comments, she was saying that there's, discrepancies in the architectural plan on what the exact height of the building is. And I feel like, probably more on the lines of the 24 feet, right? So even though you're one story, you're 24 feet. So it should be nice to intersperse, the deciduous trees with the evergreens,
I
right?
think the issue might be because of the parapet, that it's 24 feet with included, but our architect can address
Okay,
that.
yeah. And I think there was a comment in here that there's an NJ Transit bus stop that's on 18.
Yes.
I want you to put a sidewalk into your site, but I didn't go into great detail, probably because it was a little bit late.
It's a little far, but you really, putting a sidewalk on Route 18, I think traffic engineer will talk whether it's feasible or not. I understand.
I want you to show me that you're asking and putting a permit in, and it's in writing, and you're asking them, because one thing that I know that DOT does at every intersection along, especially now they're doing a project on Route 9, is how can I improve multimodal connectivity at each of these intersections? I have to say, if they say no to you, shame on them, because you want to be able to increase, especially now, you can't get a workforce. How are you going to get these 27 people to come work for you? You have to give them an ability to be able to take NJ Transit and be able to come to work.
Would the township be an co-applicant on that, or would that be the applicant?
It would be the applicant. I would have no jurisdiction. Happy to sign anything that you need me to sign,
Fair
to
enough.
say, or give you a letter to say that this is what we want to encourage, but I would.
No, I'm not saying you have jurisdiction. The question is, we could talk about that when we meet.
Yeah, maybe it would help. I would
Yeah.
do it.
Okay,
you know.
very good.
When we revise the plan, we will show at least on our side, the sidewalk, some dedication, like we'll keep the area reserved in case we get an access, we'll create a sidewalk.
Yeah, I actually want the sidewalk to come up on that north side of the driveway, and then I don't want you to cross the driveway until you get into your site, because I don't want any further interruption with DOT to slow the process,
Okay, definitely we can do that.
Other than that, you're going to do all the stormwater comments. They're going to change because of those new rules, those emergent rules that are coming out, that they gave us 2 weeks' notice on. And I think grading and utility plans, you're saying that these are easily accomplished. And then last was, and then the lighting. At the driveways, look for the next available utility pole and have JCP&L install a light on the pole that's existing there to help you increase your lighting. You don't have to put it on your site.
I'll check into it and we'll fix that, whatever is needed. Okay, I don't have. And one thing I want to tell is, currently, one third of the site is draining into the neighbors between these two homes.
Raining, you said?
Yeah, it's draining. Really, when it rains, the water goes there from our site. So they will be really benefited that they will not get that rainwater flowing between their backyards.
Oh, good.
Currently, if you go on a cul-de-sac, you will see that the water just comes over.
Okay, good.
So that will be really, really good benefit to them as we are taking all the water and discharging on like a site where.
Good. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Ahmad?
I don't have many comments, but I guess in relation to the signage, I think there was a discrepancy in the report that it was indicated that the sign that's shown in the DOT right-of-way would require use variance, and that is not the case. While it is a prohibited sign, the sign is accessory to the use, which is, a standard under the MLUL and case law. So it would just be a bulk variance if it was, and then the condition attached to that would be that the DOT obviously approved it because it's on their property. As far as the testimony I just heard about the sign at the entrance, I do agree that it's going to be very difficult to see that freestanding sign from the highway, especially given the distance of the right-of-way from the cartway. What I would, rather than seek the variance for a sign, the point of a sign is to provide direction, to provide location, wayfinding. I wouldn't seek the variance for additional freestanding sign if it's going to be obsolete, it's going to be covered by landscaping, if it's going to be not visible. What I would say is, and this was not included, was the facade sign. The wall sign was not included in the variances, so that will be updated. But I would say put your efforts towards the facade sign along the entranceway along Route 18 for visibility. Even though you're going to have mature trees, I think that will help people find the site. Even though you don't have too many visitors, when you do have people come, or new bus drivers or whatever, I think that's probably going to be more beneficial to seek, an increased variance for the wall sign rather than a facade sign that's going to do nothing. Okay.
Thank you for that comment.
I don't have anything else for the engineer at this time.
Thank you. Fire Marshal. You've been here all night. Why not?
Okay, thank you. As he mentioned, we did have a conversation on the phone about the hydrant in the FDC. So he did give me a small drawing. I have no problem where he's locating it. I guess you'll show that on a new drawing. The dumpster we spoke about and the parking spaces for the buses, which was a concern, because the site is kind of tight. Because once I come in one entrance, I got to go out the other. There's really nowhere for us to turn around. So it's not a big problem. The concern, I think we're going to address circulation, or your traffic consultant will, about us coming in from Marlborough Road from the south and making the left turn.
Actually, you see there's an island. It will be a depressed island at the entrance.
Yeah. Okay.
Road, so you would be able to come from any direction. Either you come from north or south.
Not a big fan of depressed with a 46-foot fire truck, though.
Or we can take it out, actually.
Well, Nicole won't like that too much.
We can stripe it yellow, so the people going out, they can channelize themselves
Yeah.
properly. But
Is that okay with you? Okay. But other than that, Jimmy, that would be always my comments, and I think once he puts it on paper, we'll be fine.
That was the entranceway you were talking about where you,
Yeah, from Marlborough
South
Road,
versus
if
the
I
north.
come from Ferry
yeah.
and the truck has to turn left, I'm going over that island, or go in the entrance the wrong
So it's
way.
going away then,
Striping.
so to speak.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay, that's all I have, Jim.
Thank
you.
Fire Marshal Nicole.
Thank you, Mr. Hart.
This is going to be your last witness, so I'm going to go to the board, and then I'm going to go to the public portion, okay? Because we're running a little long. Board members on my left.
Thank you, sir.
For the engineer.
Yes, regarding the parking spaces, how many do you have?
we have a 37.
37, and how many are handicapped?
2.
2. And for the senior, do you think you need more handicap?
Don't drive. That's what
Oh, they don't drive.
They don't drive, so no one comes driving to the facility.
If you have a special bingo night and they're all filled, is there street parking?
No.
No. So,
So we have a restriction, definitely, that this is it. Like we don't have a room on Marlborough Road. We don't have a room on Route 18. So they have to arrange some other parking spaces if they have to do something where they invite people with more than 37 cars.
so you recommend not to drive there, to be picked up?
Just they have to limit them. If they have to create some occasion where people have to drive, they have to calculate and rent a parking space nearby and then bus it. It's just going to be, there's no parking basically. They will commit, I'm sure that they will not park off-site.
Okay, thank you.
Chevalier.
Yeah, you stated you have 37 parking spaces. You have 27 staff members. That leaves 10 spaces.
What I think, based on what my discussion with him, the owner, all the bus drivers, they take the buses home. They don't, so they just come and go. Like it's not they are there all the time. And still,
Well, hold on.
they don't come in their own vehicle. They use the buses,
I
their
understand
van.
that, but if family members are coming in, I mean, we had the same problem with Reformed Church, not enough parking. So it's, we're kind of back at the same situation with this. You have no additional parking. And if all 27 of your staff members park their cars there, you only have 10 spaces left for family members to pick up.
You're asking excellent questions. Could I just have the applicant maybe clarify that and answer your
Sure,
question?
that'd be great.
Okay. How much you want to clarify that?
So currently we have 22 parking spaces and some additional, it's never filled. Even with the 140 people and all the events, it's never filled. So, and most drivers, like if I have 27 staff members, 9 of them are drivers, and they take the vehicles home, so they don't have their own cars. Plus, our buses, they make trips, like if they are in a shopping or appointment. So the only time you will see the maximum number of buses are between 6 and 7. But then there will be less staff there because we don't have as many people in a second shift.
Yeah, but I think Ms. Chevalier's question is, she's concerned, and I understand why she's asking. So if you have 27 employees approximately, she's just concerned that,
You have a special event.
right, a special event, but I think you explained that given the shifts, not all the employees are there
No.
at any one point. And I think
Yeah.
Ms. Chevalier.
So if I have the 7 employees taking the buses, so we need only 20 parking space, and then we have 37. So we still have enough parking. As I explained, in our current operation, we never run out of parking space. Especially events, we don't encourage any, mostly none of, in these 12 years in business, we never had occasion that more than 1 or 2 family members or 2 families are at the site, because it's always by appointment.
Okay.
So if the family member has to come, they either come to see a nurse or a social worker or something, and they always call and arrange it before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question before we sit down? I just
Sorry,
want a clarification, just so it's clear, because there's a lot of numbers going around. You have 27 staff during a shift, but of that staff, you indicated that there's people driving buses.
Yes.
So how many staff do you have a shift that are in the building, that are on site?
So 27 is the maximum number. We don't have that currently. That's the maximum number we can have when we run into a higher number.
So that would be for how many? How many participants?
That would be for 160, 180.
Okay.
And what happens is some of them, 5 or out of 27, as in the mentioned before, 7 of them are part-time. They only work 4 hours. So when we have a higher capacity, let's see if my first shift has 120 people, then those 4 people out of 7, 5 will work in the first shift. Because we designed the staffing based on the load, how many census, based on the census. Parking, so far we haven't have any problem with the parking, even with at the peak of our operation, 24 staff member will always have a parking, because there are no visitors. The only person you see visitors is insurance company, maybe once or twice, and they are all scheduled. No one shows up.
So I just wanted to clarify that, because it is a valid point that a parking problem, when you have no other options, no street parking,
Yes.
nowhere else to go, once the parking's in place, that's, the only opportunity to meet it. So,
Yes, no, I agree with
yeah.
that.
And so on top of the staff that are on site, let's say the 27 is the biggest number you're going to see of staff members that bring their own cars. Let's say
Yes.
all 27. How many buses would you have parked, or that aren't taking people to and from?
No, the buses will be 11, about 11 to 12. That includes the buses and vans. It's not all of them are buses.
Okay.
So there are transit vans. The big bus, I have only 1. Previously, we used to have 3 of them. We get rid of them. We can't afford it anymore.
So the
Yeah.
transit buses fit in a normal parking spot?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so just do a rough calculation. 27 employees plus, 10 transit buses, you're looking
Yes.
at site is
Yes.
full. Okay.
Not full, because the vehicle, the drivers take home, so they don't come in their own car.
I only mean during the day.
Oh, yes,
During
yes.
the day, when the site is occupied and the staff are on site,
Yes.
and the building is, operational, and the vans come back, they're not always moving, are they?
They are always.
Oh,
You will
always.
never see full parking or all the vehicle. At the only time you see all the vehicle is between 9 and 9:30, and between 6 and 7.
Okay.
Because they pick up on a schedule, so not all the vehicles are always going to be there, ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in other words, they
And Ms.
rotate, right?
Yeah, they rotate.
And Mr. Chairman, just to piggyback on that, because I That's what I thought I heard. So a driver, they take home the bus in between shifts? Like, are they ever on site in between the first and second shift?
No, most drivers, they work from the morning to the evening. I have a part-time drivers, even if they go home at 4 o'clock, from start at 8 and go home at 4, they take the bus home.
So to Katie's point, I'm a driver, I'm picking up John Smith to come at 8 o'clock in the morning. I drop him off.
Yes.
Where do I go? Do I park and stay on site, or do I go home?
No, you park and stay, and then we have a lot of medical appointments. So people go for appointments, plus we have trips to grocery stores, farmers market. It's all designed.
Okay.
It's a scheduled trip. So,
But they could theoretically park and be on site the rest of the day.
yes, yes. And most vehicle you see on the site is between 6 and 7 because there is no appointment, all doctor's office is closed and everyone is there. Yeah. Thank you.
One thing, we're going to have 35 parking spaces. After we make the changes which Tom told us, I'm losing one already to make parking spaces bigger.
Right.
And moving the trash collection system, I'm going to lose one more. So eventually it will be 35 parking spaces, not 37.
Okay. Ms. Testaverde, did I ask you if you have anything? No. And Mr. Dasty, you have nothing else, right?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Tom, you finished for tonight? You good? All right. How about if I go to public portion?
Fair enough.
I'm going to open up the public portion, and this is 06-2022Z. This is located 18 Marlborough Road for a senior daycare facility to be built. Anyone here in the room want to be heard? Please raise your hand or come forward. Can't see behind the exhibits, but I don't think so, right? No one on this side? No one has asked to speak, so I'm going to close the public portion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have continuance, right? What are we going to do? Let's see.
We can put them on for September 1st. That would be the
Mr.
next
Himelman?
available date.
Not August 18th, correct?
Not at this time, no.
Fair enough.
Well, you want to try to get in on the 18th?
Well, I know that you had other I know when I spoke to Vina, there were other applications, and then I think you.
Speak to your client, too?
No, I don't.
I know Mr. McGowan's coming back in on that night, too, right?
On the 18th, right. I mean, there's no opportunity to get a special meeting, I presume, correct?
I'm retired. You're asking the wrong guy. I'll come in any night.
On the first hall? No. Fair enough. I think
Why don't we just move it to September?
I understand.
To the
I'm
first date
respectful for
in
that.
September. And that is
September 1st, yep.
September 1?
Yes.
All right, if you're watching at home or those here of interest, this matter will be continued September 1, 2022, no further notice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you and all your witnesses and professionals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the board. Thank you for waiting.
Wish you happy holidays coming up, 4th of July. Everybody be safe and enjoy the summer. I hope you
Same.
get to play a lot of golf this year.
Same to you and same to everyone here. Thank you.
Our board, that does bring us to the close of the agenda. We have, we'll open up to public comments, and I'm going to open up for public comments. Does anybody here in the room have public comments concerning anything that they want to address the zoning board about? I see no one, so I'll entertain anybody from the dais as well. Nothing on this side. Once again, Katie, great to see you again. Thank you for sitting in. I hope we can see you more often. And congratulations on, how old's your son now? Wow, that was quick, huh? Wow. Congratulations. I hope you have a great summer as well. Mr. Dasty, thank you for your counsel this evening, and thank the rest of the board members for being here. Thank you, sir, for the great presentation you made earlier, too. We meet again on when?
June 2nd.
No.
Oh, that's it. June 16th.
Wait, that's today. That would be, we can't do this all over again tonight.
No.
What's the next date?
June 16th, and that's on Zoom.
June 16th on Zoom. Board members, hope we can all see each other then. I'll move for an adjournment. Someone? I'll move the adjournment. Someone want to second it? Second. Roll call, please, for adjournment.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier? Mr. Scogno?
Yes?
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes, good night, everyone.
Good night.
We stand adjourned.